G'day there guys, Australian natural spring water enjoyer here. It's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/AmITheA. Now if you enjoy soda more than water, why? Sit back, relax, chuck a like on this video and enjoy the bloody good content. Thank you. Posted by user AmITheA school post. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my mum I resent her holding me back because of my sister? So I, female 17, was one of those gifted kids when I was younger. I taught myself how to read when I was 2.5 and how to add when I was 3. And by the time I went to kindergarten, I was reading chapter books and doing second grade math. My sister, who's 18, has ADHD and dyslexia and was always a little behind in reading and math. Now to the story. My district makes us do placement tests whenever we start kindergarten, and right before the school year started, the principal and my kindergarten teacher called my parents into a meeting. They basically said I was very advanced for my age and wanted me to skip kindergarten and go to first grade. My mum refused because she thought my sister's feelings would be hurt because I skipped a grade and she didn't. They said okay, and suggested I be put in the gifted program and go to a different elementary school in the district, like 2 miles away, that has advanced classes and extra support for gifted kids. She rejected that too because she also thought that it would hurt my sister's feelings. They also suggested a private elementary school 10 minutes away for gifted kids. She said no for the same reason as above. They told my mum that they wouldn't be able to give me much support if I'm at a regular kindergarten class at their school, and she said okay. My dad wanted me to go to a private school and argued with my mum about it for weeks. He eventually gave up when she threatened to divorce him for not considering my older sister. Fast forward to the 8th grade. I'm still very advanced and my dad comes home from work with pamphlets for this special high school for gifted kids. My mum shut it down immediately. They argued and he gave in again when the threat of divorce came up again. Now, my parents are actually getting divorced, and I chose to live with my dad full-time. My mum got mad and asked what she did to have me leave her too, and I gave a whole list of reasons, mostly her favoring my sister, and ended it with her holding me back in school to protect my sister's feelings. She argued that she did what was best for both of us, and I'm an a-hole for holding that against her because now I have great friends at my school. I left and went to pack my stuff, and my mum and I aren't speaking, so I wanted to know if I was an a-hole. If she's threatening divorce at such an early milestone in your life, I'm surprised your dad didn't see the writing on the wall that this was bound to happen eventually. Obviously though, hindsight is 20/20, and that's not always the case, because he knows the relationship better than any of us. We also don't know what damage would have come from the divorce that early on to the kids, and how much worse off OP could be if he lost that custody. It was the right thing for him to continuously fight for OP's education though. That mother knew that she had power over the kids and the husband in the court system, and I'm just putting it out here that she abused that knowledge to the detriment of OP and OP's progress. She did more harm than good with sparing the feelings of the other sibling, and how dare she put that on her family? Honestly, I would be ashamed to have a mother like that in my life, and thank God mine's a saint in comparison. Not the a-hole, and I'm sorry that happened to you, OP. Now in the comments, Scream Mario says, not the a-hole. Jesus, your mum needs to grow the F up, and your dad is kind of a coward for not doing this earlier. The mother is probably jealous rather than proud of her own daughter, because mother is probably not a gifted person. Agreed, not the a-hole. This was my thought, that it was never about the sister, but about the mum being jealous and wanting to hold her daughter back. Nah, I believe it was about the mum playing favourites because I was given the same opportunity to skip a grade and my mum declined because she didn't want my brother to feel bad or me graduating closer to him. My younger sister skipped a grade and I was happy because it meant I got to see her more at school. How could this hurt my feelings that someone you love is doing good? Did the mum ask the siblings if they would actually be hurt, or is it just an excuse? Baron Sharktooth says, in reply to, your dad is kind of a coward for not doing this earlier, I wonder if you've ever been in a troubled relationship with children. I have, and you try to make that relationship work because you cannot predict the effects of the divorce. That's not cowardice, that's being a decent father, in my honest opinion. And I disagree with the dad being a coward. It sounds like he did stand up for it, and the option became divorce as an ultimatum. This is 100% on the mum. Chances are, divorce at those ages will have the kids be with the mum, or maybe 50-50, and would be even worse for these decisions solely resting on her mum. At least now, her dad can do what was suggested with the kids being older. Not the a-hole. Your mother shouldn't hold you back just because your sister is not as smart as you. If anything, she should have been supportive of your gifts and let you join advanced programs. That way, your sister who isn't as smart might have felt the need to be like you and study more. Considering the sister has learning disabilities, that would be equally as crappy to do to her kids. Mum needed to find ways to adequately support the individual needs of both of her children, not hold one back or put one up on a pedestal. It's the parent's duty to help a child fulfill their full potential, whatever it is. The mother certainly didn't do that for OP. She probably is also doing similar to the older one too, but in a different manner. She's actually holding the older one back because she's babying her instead of pushing her. I had a parent do this to me, and now my sister gets angry when I achieve something she doesn't. Not fair! Gets awards when she doesn't. Not fair! Travel to places that she doesn't. Not fair! And earn more than her. Forcing both to the same mold creates unhealthy competition. Posted by user Errol to check, titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling a girl to check her privilege?" So my school made the switch from paper to laptops and iPads 2 years ago. And since then, you can really see whose parents have money. I'm currently using some Asus my uncle gave me because my family are below the poverty line. He bought it in 2011, and although the battery is shot, it still runs and Word works, so I don't need much else. There is a pretty big financial divide in my town, and thus a large divide in the school, which is one of 2 secondary schools. A girl in my class posted a TikTok where she was rating people's laptops and iPads. She recorded mine, which was plugged in with its external hard drive, and you could very clearly see the left side of the screen that is broken. She rated it a -3 out of 10 and wrote, "Poor girl," and zoomed in on my shoes to prove a point. My shoes are fine, they're just not Air Force Ones. Other laptops that weren't the latest MacBook or the latest iPad got rated pretty low. One of my friends showed me her video, and I confronted her about it. She seems really sheltered, and I asked her to take it down. She refused, so then I told her, saying that it's incredibly classist, and I don't want that on the internet. She still refused, and I got madder each time. And eventually I just said, check your effing privilege. Not everyone can afford a €2,000 laptop, and not everyone effing prioritizes flashy over functional. She hasn't taken down the video, and my friends who showed me it says I overreacted, and that made me an a-hole. She said she's just sheltered, and I shouldn't overreact like that. Am I the a-hole? It is not a crime to record someone without consent here, regardless of how old said person is. If you want me to reply to anything, inbox it to me. I'm in Am I the a-hole jail. And guys, even if I wanted to report this, I can't. It won't work too well in my favor, regardless of how you take that. You say sheltered like it gives her a pass to be a bitch to you. This is obviously one of those high school moments where the wronged party can't really do anything about it without causing a fight or having it spiral out of control with parents and the school admin. It really is an uphill battle that you can't win, in my mind. But you had every right to get up her for being classist and have a go at her for that. But the popularity game will dictate that she gets a bunch of support from her friends, regardless of how bad what she did to you was. Bonus points for her if what she did was really funny and would send her several layers deep into hell. Thank God I'm no longer in high school. Not the a-hole, OP. Now in the comments, Judge Jed 1000 says, Not the a-hole. The girl and your friend are the a-hole. Report the videos to the school. And being filmed without consent as a minor who is clearly identified is also breaking a couple of privacy laws. OP should collect the evidence and submit it to the school with a highlight on those privacy laws. That crap will get shut down so quick. There's also the cyberbullying aspect to consider, but yeah, OP has a lot of ground here they can use. And OP replies, "There's no laws on that yet. I'm not naked, so it's not illegal." Yes, it is. She still filmed and posted you without consent in school, which is defined as a safe space as well as government and private property. Why do you think documentaries have people with blurred faces? Because they need consent. It's absolutely illegal what she did. Report it. Also not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Not understanding that not everyone can afford new electronics equals sheltered. Identifying that someone is poor and dragging them for it equals a-hole. Perfect distinction, but from the description here, I'm not actually sure the sheltered part really applies to this girl. She might be fully aware of what she's doing and just be an a-hole. Still not the a-hole to the OP, but just a thought. And Dark says, not the a-hole. Take pride in using old hardware. The longer people use old hardware, the less e-waste gets generated. Whether or not it's by choice, it's still something that helps out either way. And OP replies, I mean, I don't take pride in this, but I also live in an industrial area where you can take old electronics to be recycled. Fair, I guess. I still try to recommend holding off on upgrades over recycling, even though recycling is still a pretty good way to dispose of old junk. If I could upgrade, I would. I don't like running the risk of my device blowing up. I ended up removing my laptop's battery entirely and only using it when it's plugged in. It's lasted me well over a decade without exploding. Best of luck though, and I'm sorry you have to deal with these classist little craps. Posted by user Am I the A-hole Outfits, titled, Am I the a-hole for proving my mom was being a hypocrite? So my mom is very different with my sister, 16, and me, 15 female. My sister is a double D and has curves and a butt, and I'm a freaking rectangle and look like a 10-year-old boy. Whenever my sister wears a v-neck or low-cut shirt or shorts that don't go down to her fingertips, our mom calls her a tramp and trashy, and says that she needs to start respecting herself and not keep trying to get boys' attention. I can wear whatever the hell I want and she won't give a damn. I bought a crop top that was barely longer than my bra and a skirt that barely covered my ass, and my mum complimented my outfit. Then my sister walked out in shorts and a t-shirt, and my mum called her a tramp. It's starting to get warm, so my sister and I started taking out our summer clothes a little early, and my mum has been on my sister's ass again. So my sister and I decided to go shopping, and we bought the exact same shirt and shorts, a cropped pink short-sleeve t-shirt and some regular black shorts, and agreed to wear them the next day to see what my mum would do. This morning, we walked out of our rooms, and my mum complimented my outfit and said that I looked cute and suggested a makeup look that I do a lot to match it. Then she looked at my sister and called her a tramp and said nobody's going to respect her if she keeps showing off her body. My sister pointed out that I was wearing the same outfit, and my mum said, "That can't be possible. Hers is so much less trashy." So my sister and I pulled out the receipts and showed her that they were the same shirt and shorts. My mum stormed off and won't talk to us, and our dad thinks she deserved it, but we should apologize to keep the peace, so we wanted to know if we were being a-holes. You literally did prove her hypocrisy in real time, and I'm sure we can all guess why the father is agreeing with his wife in this situation. Anyway, rest assured, morally you're in the clear here in my books. I don't know where your mom gets off on shaming your sister like that, but that's really messed up. That's never something you should put on your child, and to continuously do it with no remorse is even worse. Shame on her. I'm gonna go with not the a-hole in this one. Now in the comments, Singin' Scott Lawyer says, not the a-hole. Your mum's attitude is disgusting, and well done for sticking up for your sister. And tell your dad that if you apologize, you will never have peace. She will continue to believe that she is right. It depends how you approach this. If she only goes to apologize and doesn't get more into it, then yes. But in this case, what they need to do is to sit down with the mother and say why they did this and what they were trying to show, and have dad as a neutral moderator. Hopefully, by discussing this calmly and constructively, something can improve. Also, definitely not the a-hole. Dad is not a neutral moderator. He's a doormat. Right? What dad sits back and lets one child be emotionally abused like that? That poor girl being bullied for her natural body shape. I can't ever fathom sitting in your own home, allowing anyone to call your daughter a tramp and a hoe, and doing nothing. He's just as bad as she is. This has been a big brain thing for me for a long time. I mean, I get that people online, etc. focus on the abusive or bullying parent because, well, obviously. But in doing so, they often hyper-focus on that parent, especially where that parent is a female, thus by omission giving the other one a free pass. And that baffles me. A parent who watches their spouse bully their kid is as culpable as the bully. Absolutely not the a-hole, and you are legends. Body type double standards are real, and I hope your mum is mature enough to learn her lesson. Sadly, I get the impression from the silent treatment that she's childish in general, maybe a bit emotionally manipulative, and it's very uncool of your dad to put pressure on you to accept it. I wonder if anything on r/raised by narcissists would resonate with you. You deserve respect no matter what you look or dress like, and you can't tell anything about someone's sex life by their body shape or clothes unless they're literally flagging in some way. Maybe not even then. For that matter, some people are tramps because they like to be, and that's okay. And some people are sex workers, and that's also okay. And those people can dress however they want to. The act of wearing clothing that doesn't have like hate speech or symbols on it is basically morally neutral. Sexualizing developed teens is such an issue. I hit puberty early and hard. It was so alienating to have to wear sports bras over my swimsuits at school functions just because I had a bigger bust. Not the a-hole. Let me get this straight. Your mum is trying to keep your sister safe from sexual harassment by sexually harassing her? Not to mention, this is a massive double standard. Your 16-year-old sister has a right to be comfortable, and if your mum wants to pretend that she's trying to communicate when she isn't, that sounds like mum's problem. And your dad's attitude is, just appease the tyrant? What the hell? This, and calling her that, is verbal abuse. Dear old mum is going to be so shocked Pikachu face when neither of her daughters want anything to do with her once they're adults. Imagine that. Posted by user GarbageBin800. Titled, Am I the a-hole for shaming someone over my plastic surgery? Hello. I figured I'd post here because my friend group is split on this one. For a bit of context, I, 21 female, have some sort of condition where flexing certain fingers is painful. It can get to the point where my finger locks and doesn't move. Most notably, whenever my finger bends, there's a loud pop followed by pain. I've been looking into this for years, and no one seems to know what to do besides putting it in a splint and hoping. I finally got a call from my doctor that she got me a referral for a plastic surgeon that specializes in hand and feet, and I'm extremely excited. Basically, the procedure that's going to be done is similar to Botox, where they try to stiffen the finger to prevent my tendon from snapping. I told a few of my close friends about this procedure. I guess one of their girlfriends overheard that I was getting Botox and misunderstood. She started messaging me how beautiful I was and that I shouldn't mess with my natural beauty. I was offended because she kept making the comments, even after I told her to stop. Every time she saw me, she would mention it or bring up how important it is to be yourself in this plastic world. We were on a large group call the other day to hang out, and she made a comment to me in front of our friends saying, "Not everyone has mummy pay for Botox." I was pissed. My parents are not paying for any part of the procedure. It's covered by my country's healthcare. I asked her where she thought I was getting Botox, and she replied that it was obviously a facial surgery. I went off on her. I told her about my mental health issues and how the procedure gave me so much hope that maybe I could literally hold a pencil without pain. I told her she was being judgmental and that she had no right to judge me even if the surgery was cosmetic. I told her to get off her high horse and reevaluate herself before trying to shame other people. I also called her a judgy bear at one point, and she ended up logging off the call. The call got really awkward, and we ended up just hanging up a few minutes after. She messaged me later, saying that she felt alienated from the group and that I didn't have to call her out in public like that. I could have told her privately. She also blamed me for not telling her the surgery was medical earlier, leading to this misunderstanding. I don't think she was entitled to any information, and even if it was cosmetic, she had no right to act like she did. Her boyfriend and one of my mutual friends thinks she's right, and I should have corrected her in private. I could be the a-hole because I did kinda make the call awkward for everyone instead of laughing her joke off and correcting her later. Edited to add a few bits of information I realize I left out when seeing comments. 1. Why were you so offended by her natural beauty comment? These were passive-aggressive statements and not compliments. She would send me links to opinion forums on blogs about God's natural beauty and told me that I was ruining myself. 2. Why didn't you just tell her? Honestly, I told her it was not cosmetic, and she refused to back down until she had every detail. She claimed it was an excuse if I wouldn't elaborate. I don't think she's entitled to know my medical history, especially when I don't really know her. 3. Why did you get so mad? So, I kind of downplayed my condition. Not everyone in that call knew about it because honestly, it can be embarrassing. I know it's something I can't control, but it still hurts when I have really bad days and need someone to help feed me, or I just drink soup out of a straw. It sucks when you know your hair is matted, but you can't pick up a hairbrush to untangle it. I didn't want people to treat me differently. Most of them knew I had some problem with my hands because I sometimes have to use voice to text when taking notes. And my opinion on this one is, you've defended your case pretty well, honestly. She wasn't entitled to that information from you, and it had to be squeezed out of you like blood from a stone. Now that she's got the full story from you, she's playing the victim as if she didn't torture that information out of you, and is playing dumb because she didn't have the full story? What is going on here? Like, it doesn't work like that. Everything about her is wrong in this situation, and she's for some reason jealous about the possibility of OP getting facial Botox, and she can't? Like, she can't get the surgery, so she has to take it out on OP? She realizes her insecurities are driving her to attack someone else's appearance and doesn't care how toxic she's being. Yikes. It's probably for the best that you're not her friend anymore. I'm going with not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Serious Laser says, 1. She called you out in public. You responded in kind. 2. She has no right to your medical information at all, let alone at the time of her choosing. She is just mad that her own actions made her look bad in front of people. Not the a-hole. OP's friend would still be an a-hole if OP had plastic surgery done to herself. She has no business commenting on a person's choice with their body. Absolutely. Whether it's Botox to help with wrinkles, or Botox to help with joints, or to help with whatever, it's no one else's business. I volunteered for a long time at a pediatric rehab facility, and one of the kids who had a traumatic brain injury got Botox injections in his hands to prevent them from curling up. Botox can prevent muscles from contracting. Through Botox and therapy, he was able to use his hands again, write, play, catch, etc. Conversely, I have a friend who doesn't want wrinkles, so she gets Botox. It's her face, it's her business, not the a-hole OP. Totally not the a-hole. She made a comment about it in front of everyone, so why should she get the privilege of privacy? Besides, she deserved to be called out for being so judgmental for no reason. And no, it is none of her business to know why you were getting surgery. She needed to be thrown off her high horse. And in the post, OP offers an update and says, "Thanks everyone for your comments. I was not expecting this to get this big, so I don't have time to reply to everyone. But thanks especially to those of you reaching out about similar issues or providing information based on experience. It helps a lot to know that I'm not the only one, and that some people have been treated for this and had the treatment work. I usually hate drama, and I didn't even know the girlfriend would be on the call. If I did, I absolutely wouldn't have joined." My friends messaged me, and apparently they were all pissed, and messaged my friend to let him know what his girlfriend said was not okay. They are supporting me 100% and are even helping me do some research into recovery options. Posted by user ThrowawayRR. Titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter that she needs to get a real job or move out?" So my daughter, 24 female, had to move back in with me and my wife 3 months ago. She used to live in her own apartment since she was 19, but unfortunate events caused her to terminate her lease. Anyway, she is studying at a close-by university and working on her thesis. She's also employed as an assistant, and they pay her on an hourly basis, so she has to document her hours. But they only give her her salary at the end of each semester, which is basically a moderate lump sum. But the fact that she's not receiving a monthly income means that she's not able to pay me rent in due time. I get that she's still studying and that she's my daughter, but I can't have a grown adult woman in my house rent-free. So the other day, I brought up the topic, and she said that she's trying her best, but that she's overwhelmed as is, juggling her assistant work and her studies. I was sort of annoyed at this and told her that her assistant work isn't a real job, that her hours are lenient, and that she needs to get a real job to cover her monthly rent or that she has to move out. She started crying and said that it is a real job and that the lump sum will be just enough to cover her rent and her student loan debt. But I'm still not eager to sit and wait for her on her rent. My wife overheard the conversation and she's really upset with me now. She said that I'm insensitive. My wife is usually at home, and she said that she can tell my daughter is overwhelmed. Apparently, she's working till early hours in the morning and has only been getting an average of 4 to 5 hours of sleep since she moved in with us. She has to submit her thesis soon, which is a major deadline, a month from now. My wife said, "It's not like she's loafing or wasting her time doing nothing or playing video games." My wife also told me that my daughter's assistant work is a real job and that she often works extra hours. Sometimes she'll get called in for nonsensical reasons, but that she never heard my daughter complain about it, but that her exhaustion is quite obvious. Well, apparently it's not that obvious. If it was, why didn't I pick up on it? But my wife is ignoring me now, and I'm starting to wonder, am I the a-hole here? I can understand why you would be frustrated that an adult lives with you rent-free in your own household, but this is your child who has been independent since 19 and has now fallen on hard times. They are literally submitting a thesis while still working and doing all of that on 4 to 5 hours of sleep a day. I'm willing to bet all you do is go to your 9 to 5 job and get a healthy 8 hours sleep a day, knowing that you've got a decent, stable life going on. It's not a stretch of the imagination that she's doing it rough right now, and things will get better for her once her workload lightens up a bit. This girl is focused on her career and work, and it seems like she doesn't have time for a social life or anything fun outside of that. Cut her some slack, OP. You're being quite a judgmental a-hole to someone who's struggling and doing their best. Plenty of adults live with their parents rent-free while doing much less. This isn't really anything out of the ordinary. You're the a-hole. Now in the comments, Erica Campbell Fan says, "You're the a-hole. You didn't pick up on it because you're an insensitive a-hole who sees his daughter as a money source and not as his child. And honestly, if you don't pull your head from that dark hole it's in, then you'll be lucky to even have a daughter or wife." This is my favorite response to date. Honestly, I'm 64, and my 99-year-old mother would be freaking thrilled if there was any way she could help me out. And if it meant me moving in with her so she could see me more, I can't imagine anything making her happier. Unless OP is seriously in trouble financially, I can't even imagine acting like this as a parent. Yeah, you're the a-hole big time. I was expecting to read about some deadbeat daughter who can't be bothered to work or study at all. But it sounds like your daughter is doing her best. And her best seems pretty effing good. And you should be proud of her, not degrade her and her work. You should be ashamed of yourself. Unless that money is all that's keeping you from the homeless shelter, you should really shut your mouth about it. Oh, and exhaustion and burnout is pretty noticeable if you pay attention to someone at all. Especially someone you live with. Sounds like you need to really examine your attitude. I second this. She's working herself into exhaustion, and you're too wrapped up in, but the rent. She's not even saying she's not paying at all, just delaying it until a foreseeable future date. You're running the risk of being a failure as a parent. You're the a-hole. Running the risk? He's already there. God, no wonder so many people have daddy issues these days. Also makes me wonder why she was already moved out and on her own at 19 with no plans of coming back. Most people I know aren't that enthusiastic about getting away from dad. You're the a-hole. A thesis by itself is a full-time job, and it sounds like her assistant work is full-time hours on top of that. She's likely working harder than you ever have. He posted and deleted a comment saying, "When I was her age, I was already out of the house and in a steady relationship, but I never went to university like her." She's definitely working harder than he did at her age. He also posted and deleted a comment where he even acknowledged that she told him how she gets paid and that she will pay him once her salary comes in. So he knew what would happen, but still chose to firmly stick his head up his posterior. Posted by user Pizza Pepperoni, titled, "Am I the a-hole for reporting my teacher and potentially getting him fired?" So my 16 female school requires us to keep our cameras on during the entire class. If we need to use the restroom, we're supposed to privately message our teacher and ask to leave. I have absolutely no issue with these rules, as I understand that online teaching is hard and you have to make sure everyone is attentive during class. We also have this system where, at the end of the week, every student is emailed a Google document in which we're supposed to type out any problems we had with the classes during the week. For example, a teacher is favoring a student, etc. On Thursday, I had a math class which was taught by Mr. T. He's never really been very strict and had always seemed quite reserved and quiet. Of course, I've never been in a lesson with him outside of online school, so I can't really judge. During the class, I realized I had started my period. I privately messaged Mr. T asking if I could use the restroom. I waited for 10 minutes, but he didn't reply, so I messaged him again, still no reply. By now, I was getting extremely uncomfortable, so I texted him for the third time explaining that I had started my period and I really have to go. He replies with, "You should have planned better. Learn to control yourself." What? I can't control my period. I tried to explain that I couldn't, but he didn't respond. I got annoyed and switched off my camera anyways and left the bathroom. Once I came back, I saw that he had kicked me out of the meeting. I later found out that he had written me for switching my camera and I was given a warning. I was pissed. Since it was a Thursday, I received the Google Doc and I complained about Mr. T in it. Today, Thursday, I found out, through my mother, who is also a teacher, that Mr. T is being investigated, as there have been multiple complaints about his behaviour, and mine was apparently the last straw. My dad, brother, and a few of my friends are calling me an a-hole, as I could have just waited for a while instead of complaining and potentially making a man lose his job, especially during this time. I don't know. I'm feeling really guilty right now. I don't want him to lose his job. Am I the a-hole? You had your period during the lesson and asked him multiple times to go to the bathroom in a discreet fashion, and he knowingly ignored you. Like, you got a response from him telling you to plan better, which is just absolutely uncalled for in this situation. Don't pity this fool if he loses his job. Mr. T obviously doesn't care about you, so why should you care about him? Replace him with someone who has some semblance of self-respect, and let Mr. T find somewhere else to work, I say. And this is obviously not the first time he's done this. If he's being investigated, there's more than just this going on. That's not someone you want in a position of power, so I say good riddance. Not the a-hole, you did the right thing, OP. And in the post, OP adds an edit and says, "Oh my god, this post and its comments are such a relief. I've been stressing over his supposed firing for the entire day. Thanks to everyone who commented. It really helped me. I've also sent this post to my dad and he hasn't responded yet." Now in the comments, Levitating Loser says, "Your dad, brother, and friends, who I assume are also male, are the a-holes. I'm so effing tired of men thinking we can just hold in our period blood the way you can with your bladder. This is a grown-ass man teaching a class of kids that are probably half female. He should know the bare basics about menstruation and how to address if a female student is having an issue. You are not the a-hole. If this was a long time coming and you were just the final straw, he should be fired. It blows my mind that someone can reach adulthood thinking a period can be held in. WTF do they think the pads and tampons are for? Why would anyone buy that crap if we could just hold it in? It makes no sense. What the hell do men learn in sex ed? I mean, I know American sex ed is pretty crappy, but do they not, at the very least, teach them what periods are? You didn't make him lose his job. If it happens, he did it to himself. Definitely not the a-hole. I remember the one time I unexpectedly got my period during lunch break and went to the male teacher that I had after lunch to explain what happened, and asked if I could go home to get clean underwear and pads and arrive late in class. Probably about 10 minutes late. We had a test that day, so I was really worried. The poor man went beet red, but he told me to go home and not worry about the test. I could stay after class to finish the test if I hadn't enough time after my return. Even though he was uncomfortable, he didn't say anything to make me feel bad, but he supported me, enabled me to take care of things, and made sure I could take my test. At the time, I was happy and relieved, but stories like this make me realize how lucky I actually was. Yeah. Unfortunately, getting basic respect and understanding for uncontrollable body functions is lucky. I got mine in the middle of a class once, and my male teacher told me that I was irresponsible and should have used the bathroom before class instead of making out with my boyfriend. Just what every 14-year-old needs, to be slut-shamed and period-shamed at the same time. Posted by user Star Wars 20. Titled, "Would I be the a-hole for having a Star Wars-themed wedding?" So my fiancé and I recently got engaged on Valentine's Day 2021. We're hoping to get married in the next 2 years, so almost every conversation we have at the moment is about wedding planning. Star Wars has been a huge influence on my life ever since I was a kid. I've watched all the movies more times than I could possibly count, and it's something nearly all of my family and friends enjoy too. So when I was thinking of wedding planning ideas, it seemed obvious that we should be doing something Star Wars related. I've been brainstorming ideas, and I have some really great themed ideas. For example, alcoholic blue milk drinks to serve guests, hiring stormtroopers to party and dance, Jedi robes for all of my groomsmen, and playing Across the Stars for the first dance. While I have more typically nerdy interests, my fiancé isn't really interested in most movies or games. She's very much a typical girly girl, and the type of person who has been planning her wedding since she was very young. She has some very specific ideas about what our wedding should look like, much more formal and glamorous than I'd imagined, and her vision definitely doesn't include lightsabers. The problem is that my fiancé really doesn't want anything Star Wars related at our wedding at all. All of my suggestions so far have been shot down without further discussion. One solution I suggested was that we could plan half the wedding, like she handles the ceremony and I plan the reception. That way we could both have what we want. However, my fiancé says that plan would make me the a-hole because even having a Star Wars themed reception would be an embarrassment in front of everyone we know. From my perspective, this is my wedding too, and I should get to decide at least half of the day. While money isn't much of an issue, we share finances, so I'm paying enough to get a say too. Am I the a-hole for wanting a Star Wars themed wedding, even though my fiancé really doesn't? Just because she is disagreeing with you on these choices doesn't mean you can't incorporate smaller themes of Star Wars into the wedding that are more tasteful than what you've suggested. Not everyone enjoys Comic-Con level role-playing Star Wars and full-on setups like you're trying to plan for this wedding. Forcing that issue does make you an a-hole because she never agreed to that side of the wedding, but you have been dating her the entire time under the agreement of what her dream wedding looks like. You don't just get to the actual planning of the wedding part if you disagreed with her ideas for an ideal wedding. It seems like you somewhat sprung this on your fiancé last minute and are upset that she can have her wedding her way, but you can't have it your way. That makes you a failure in communication and toxic if you're putting up a fuss about it. Yes, people should make plans unilaterally. And unfortunately, you've agreed to her terms and she hasn't agreed to yours. Just try toning your ideas down a couple notches to where it's more socially acceptable and not so in your face, and I imagine this wouldn't be such a big deal. As it stands though, I'm going you're the a-hole. Now in the comments, Cat in an Oak Tree says, "You're the a-hole. Not because you want to say, but it is clear that you're trying to dominate the theme despite her seemingly solid opposition. You get a say, you don't get a unilateral choice. Receptions should reflect the overall theme and tone of the wedding. Having a very white tie wedding and a cosplay level reception is discordant. It also sounds like something she is very much against. You need a compromise, both of you. But right now, I don't see what you're offering as any concession towards how she feels. You will also find society largely will back the bride on this." My biggest takeaway is the theme of the wedding should be about love, and if they have never bonded over Star Wars, then why should it be included? I mean, maybe the blue drinks and having a bartender dressed as a Jedi or Stormtrooper, but this is his passion and interest, not hers. You only do themed weddings of that magnitude when it's a shared interest. That's my thinking. Theme weddings are awesome, but that's because the theme means something to both the bride and groom. Why doesn't the groom have a Star Wars themed bachelor party? Agreed. It doesn't sound like OP really wants a Star Wars themed wedding as much as he wants a Star Wars themed party. Only the first dance song is something that's exclusive to weddings. Everything else can be done at a bachelor party, or even a birthday party if he wanted. I appreciate that it means a lot to him, but unless the chosen theme is relevant to the relationship, then it doesn't need to be a part of the wedding itself. I think this is a good distinction and a great idea. Don't get me wrong, a Star Wars themed party sounds like gas, but if the bride's not into it, that would be incredibly uncomfortable at a wedding. It sounds like OP also wants a quite large-scale Star Wars party, on the scale that weddings normally take place at. Bachelor party or a milestone birthday would definitely be appropriate. You're the a-hole. Jedi robes? Paid stormtroopers? It sounds so over the top that your wedding would be more of a spectacle than a celebration of your love and life together. Is this really the hill you want to die on? Is your identity that wrapped up in a franchise that you want it to monopolize a day meant to be shared and about your love? And as a wedding planner, there are a lot of ways to use your theme without it being overpowering. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but my first thoughts are place card settings, table names, a wishing well tree with the caption, "May the Force be with us." Get some lightsabers so that when you and your groomsmen take your pictures, you can do a fun photo op with that. Besides the wedding cake, have a small dessert table with some themed items. The most important part of all of this is that you and your fiancé agree and enjoy this time planning your special day. I love all of these ideas. Also, you could get a groom's cake that's Star Wars themed. You can also incorporate nice Star Wars themed things to yourself, like cufflinks. My husband wore Star Wars cufflinks and socks on our big day. I think you could get the blue milk drink in there too. Posted by user Ali Baron 2021. Titled, "Am I the A-hole? I locked my entire alley up." So last year, I bought a house in my area. A really wonderful old red brick. When I was in the process of buying it, I discovered that the purchase also includes the entirety of the alley. I asked the realtor if this was true, and they said yes. I went to the courthouse to double check and confirmed it. So I buy the house, I meet some of the neighbors, and I make a joke about charging them rent to use my alley. They flipped out. I was not looking at starting a war, so I kind of just let it blow over. Then, winter arrived, and the neighbors started demanding I have the alley plowed every time it snowed. Because I own the alley and I'm responsible for it. One of them told me they would sue me if they slipped and fell in the alley. I don't believe they were joking. I paid a friend $25 a month to plow the alley every time it snows to keep them happy. But during this time, I was also talking with some people at the courthouse. As soon as the snow started to melt in my area, I got a hold of some local contractors and had them build a gate at the entrance of the alley that I keep locked. I've also posted trespass warning signs on the gate. It's all completely legal, and I made sure of it before I did this. Now the neighbors are just livid. Basically, everyone's calling me an a-hole, including my family. One final note, I'm only here to settle a debate with my sister. Regardless if I'm an a-hole or not, the alley isn't going to be opened up again. You don't threaten me with a good time. For anyone who doesn't know any better, the alley has 2 garages that open to it. I would have figured most of you would realize an alley may have a garage. I guess not. I didn't intentionally leave that fact out, but after everyone started howling about it, I decided to wait until I was done here to edit the main post. I'll update if I ever get sued into oblivion. Lots of love. I think I've read through enough legal advice to get a general idea of the type of thing going on here. In my humble and unexperienced opinion, I agree with your decision to lock that alley up and post trespass signs on it. Being threatened with being sued because people are genuinely trespassing through your property, that wouldn't sit right with me if I were you, and neither should it. Yes, it would be hard to see if you're being unreasonable, what with your family and neighbors making convincing arguments based off of precedent with that alleyway, but morally and legally, what you're doing is in your best interests. Look after yourself first. You're not harming them by doing this. All you're doing is making things a little inconvenient for people. Boo-hoo! Go cry somewhere else and take the long way round. So yeah, you've done the right thing in my view, so I'm going not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Porty Lover says, not the a-hole. Someone threatened to sue you over a perceived potential hazard. You blocked access to the hazard. That's a reasonable response. Problem solved, and enjoy your alley. Yup. Every single person who bitches about it, I would be pointing at exactly who threatened to sue for liability because it is, as they put it, your property. And don't forget to say to the ones complaining, this is why we can't have nice things. Karma. Not the a-hole. The second someone jokes about liability or tells you to have it plowed, you close it. Agreed. Why not extend your property so that it's not an alley anymore? It's part of your land, or use it for storage, etc. That changes the psychology of it all if it's not seen as a blocked off alley, but as private property serving some other function. Might not be possible depending on how it's set up. I'm personally envisioning 2 strips of houses with their backs facing each other and OP owning the alley in between them. Not a very practical extended backyard. And Cake or Death 98 says, "Everyone sucks here. I think you set the tone for your relationship with your neighbors in your first interaction by joking about being the alley landlord, and that you were going to charge them rent to use your alley. I think most people would agree that kind of joke was probably a poor choice, given you were literally just meeting them. They really had no idea if you were joking, but actually meant it. And frankly, it's not weird to be a bit put off by someone who jokes about charging you rent within minutes of meeting you. Plus, some people just have a demeanor, tone, and personality that makes it hard to tell when they're joking. And while I know tone is hard to interpret in writing, I kinda get the impression that you might be one of those people. I think it's quite likely that they didn't think that you were serious and that you joking about it was actually just you informing them. Like the landlord who does some routine or necessary maintenance to your apartment and jokes about raising your rent, and then raises your rent. So, if these people thought that you weren't joking, they probably have the attitude of, oh, well, if it's his alley, then he can take care of it himself. I would be curious to know what the neighbors did for the plowing before you bought the house. Then you got one a-hole who makes the "I'll sue you" threat. So you decide to block access to all the neighbors and cut off access to people's garages? I mean, yes, you have the legal right to do so, but exactly how do you think this is going to play out? You've literally made all of your neighbors hate you. How pleasant of a living experience are you going to have now? You seem to be one of those people that doesn't care what other people think as long as you're right, and that's all fine and dandy. But I'm not sure what you're gaining here from being right. You would probably answer, not get sued, which is true, but again, you kind of set that aggressive tone yourself from the very start. And while you may have the legal right to block the access, I think it's pretty foolish of you to think that you can't be sued for access rights unless the people at the courthouse were property lawyers. You just seemed kind of smug about the whole thing, but you just basically made yourself a pariah. Whether that's right or wrong doesn't matter, it's the reality. Now you have a new house that is surrounded by people who think you're an a-hole. Honestly, you move into the neighborhood, immediately start joking about being the alley landlord and charging people rent. Your response to one angry person threatening to sue is to screw over all of your neighbors. You literally blocked access to people's garages. You don't want to sell them access rights. You made sure it's perfectly legal. You kind of sound like a jerk. I guess if being right and it's perfectly legal are more important to you than being glared at every time you step out of your door and being bad-mouthed to everyone, then I guess you have nothing to be worried about. I'm kind of surprised it took me this long to find an everyone sucks here. Yes, the neighbors are a-holes for threatening to sue or whatever, but OP is clearly being an a-hole too. It's truly amazing how often people in this subreddit confuse something that you are within your rights to do with something that does not make you the a-hole. Posted by user OrganicMouse282, titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my mum I'm not an aunt and not going to pretend just for her? My mum married my stepdad when I, 20 female, was 7 and my stepsister was 6. You might think after all these years we would be good, but nope. She was such an effing nightmare to deal with, and it only got worse after her dad took custody of her from her mum when she was 13. It wasn't just me either. She smashed up the collection of photos my mum had of my uncle and her brother, who died when they were kids, and she made sure those photos could not be salvaged. She broke something valuable that her grandma, my stepdad's mum, owned. As for me, she would spit in my pillows so I couldn't sleep on it. She would tell me to give her stuff. So when I got a phone, she demanded I give it to her. If I was eating a chocolate bar, she demanded it. Her dad at one point had her in therapy 3 times a week, and he would punish the hell out of her for stuff like spitting and breaking crap. One time when we were 15 and 16, we both got in trouble because she tore the photo I had in my bedroom of my dad and grandparents, and she smudged food stains all over the fragments left, and I lost it. I told her she effing sucked, and I was so glad she was not my real sister, because I would never want to be family with someone as unlovable as her. And I told her that I never disliked anyone as much, and my life was so much better without her in it. After that, things were very different. My mum said she understood that I was upset, but that I should never say such cruel things to someone. She encouraged me to apologize and say I hadn't meant those things. But I had. My stepdad and I had gotten along okay up to that point, but me saying his daughter was unlovable and that I wished she had never been in my life was a step too much for him, which I get. We pretty much coexisted after that, had therapy and all that, but I think my mom was the only one truly all in at first, and then my stepdad eventually. But my stepsister and I were not interested in repairing things. For me, they were just never good to begin with. Now I live with some friends and live pretty far from my mum. My stepsister recently moved back in with them after she had a baby, and my mum has tried to convince me that this is the perfect time to put the past in the past and move forward. She's brought up my being an aunt many times before, and I know she's telling the truth that my stepsister is ready for it too, because she sent me a video via my mum's Facebook saying that she had forgiven me for what I said and was ready to move forward. I got pretty tired of my mum trying and calling me an aunt, so I told her I wasn't an aunt. I told her I had no siblings, and so I can't be an aunt. She told me it was childish to say that when everybody else is ready to move on from all of that. I told her I was not, that I had never grown to care about stepsister and did not want to be in her life, or to have her in mine, and her child was an extension of that. She's mad at me for saying that and my stubborn stance. Am I the a-hole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. So I can admit that there is a lot of talk that we shouldn't hold the actions of a child against them when they are grown, and especially when they become a parent because we grow and change, and I get that. And that's partly why I'm posting this. Because I just don't know if by not wanting to move on and saying what I said, she's not my sibling, I'm not her kid's aunt, etc., that it might make me an a-hole. Plus, I know it hurts my mum. I agree that you shouldn't hold the actions of a child against them in general, but in this case specifically, I definitely would hold those actions against them since they haven't proven they changed at all. You said those things in order to defend yourself and make your feelings known. In response, you were told to just forgive them and move on from it all? If your stepdad got offended by that too, then he deserves to be offended. That child's behavior is a direct result of his shitty parenting, and he should absolutely be ashamed of himself for allowing that child to inflict so much pain on family. That's his fault, just as much as it's the child's. I'm angry just as much as you are with these people, OP. You don't owe them anything, and they don't deserve to get off the hook for those actions without an apology, or any amends being made at all. That's just terrible behavior by the lot of them. Screw them and let them live in their own terrible little worlds. I'm going not the a-hole, OP. Now in the comments, SillyCar7969 says, not the a-hole. She has forgiven you, not apologized. Exactly. The entitlement continues. It is such a gaslight. I will never get what makes people narcissistic like this. People tend to not want to admit when they did something wrong. Even if the stepsister is better now and knows she was an a-hole, which may not be the case, it'll take a lot for her to not be stubborn and admit it. Not the a-hole, but everyone else is. Your mother and your stepfather who did nothing to stop your stepsister's cruel behavior, especially after she ruined precious photos of the deceased. Why on earth did they let her get away with so much? OP replies, she was punished, but it was not like she cared all that much. Her dad was always grounding her, and he had her in therapy, but she just loved doing crap to hurt people that she and her mum didn't like, and didn't give two craps about the consequences as long as she got what she wanted. Like when she full-on had my mum sobbing after destroying the photos of her brother. Maybe look into ASPD and see if that fits your stepsister at all. If not, then your sister is really extremely twisted. Or maybe someone else's mental health is not her responsibility and it changes nothing for her. And every day I'm cuddling says, not the a-hole. One day you might feel ready to let bygones be bygones, but until that time, they can't force you. Your feelings are valid. I also don't like that stepsister forgave you but didn't own her own crap and apologize. She sounds like the same narcissistic a-hole who hurt you on the regular growing up. Probably the kind of narcissistic that needs a babysitter. Yes, or even just trying to look like the good guy by saying that they're willing to forgive and forget and making it seem like OP is being childish. Which sensible people understand as nonsense, but sorry OP. OP's parents allowed this all to happen so they don't seem sensible. Posted by user NotSorrySis823798. Titled, Am I the a-hole for insisting it's my sister's own fault she got dropped from her university classes and telling my family I refuse to feel sorry for her? So her classes are all remote. Through Zoom, you don't even need a webcam on. You just log into the class so the teacher sees your name there and checks it off. But I guess that was too much for her, and she would rather sleep all day instead. She missed the past 2 weeks straight. The university policy is, if you miss 2 weeks of classes, you get dropped. I would know because I go there too. So, of course, yesterday when she tried to log on, she found that she was dropped from everything. She was distraught because she thought she was going to get in trouble with mum and dad. Honestly, I was worried they would kick her out with how they'd been talking when I started going a few years ago, saying, if you drop out, you gotta find a new place to live, and all of that. While I don't feel bad for her getting dropped from the classes, I wouldn't want her to be homeless. Instead of being upset, mum and dad just tried to comfort her, telling her lies about how it's not her fault, the school was too harsh, and I was planning on keeping my feelings to myself, but mum kept bugging me, asking me to try and help make her feel better. After the 7th or 8th time that night, I snapped and said my piece, saying how she knew the school rules. We all were well aware of them, but she would rather sleep all day than go to class for the past 2 weeks. So no, I refuse to feel sorry for her that her own actions caught up with her. You said if I ever did anything like this, I would be kicked out. But now you're just coddling her? Mum said the pandemic has been hard on us all, and that it should be understandable if people don't have the energy to go to class. I said I would agree, but Sis had somehow found the energy to go to the very unsafe house parties each and every weekend since the pandemic started, including the 2 that she skipped class for, putting everyone in the house at greater risk. But somehow she doesn't have the energy for school? My mum and sister aren't talking to me right now. Dad is torn on who to side with. Edit. Yes, mum and dad know my sister parties. Mum is afraid her missing out on a year or 2 of dating and socializing will lead to her being single forever. I'm engaged already, before you ask. And edit 2, just to reiterate, I didn't say anything until mum pushed and pushed and pushed me to. Also, as far as I've been told, I'm the only one in the family diagnosed with depression. I don't know where that came from, but thank you for telling us, OP. So yeah, basically, I think everyone would be on your side for this one. Reason being, she knew the rules and chose to break them anyway. She set a precedent to breaking rules and your parents breaking their back, bending so hard for her that they don't know which way is up anymore. If your parents are genuinely angry at you for saying those things and not coddling your sister, then goddamn, you live in a dystopian family. They made it clear they're more than happy to make you homeless for doing the same thing, but when she does it, she deserves sympathy and kind words from you? Yikes, no. It don't work like that, mate. Keep up the good work, OP. Not the a-hole. Now in the comments, CBF892 says, not the a-hole. I'm big on accountability. Your sister cannot take accountability for something that is clearly her and her fault alone. And your parents aren't doing her any favors by placing blame elsewhere. This will repeat itself in other areas for years to come. Turning on a computer is so much easier than getting yourself up and heading onto campus. It takes close to zero effort to do. Your parents giving her a pass and handing her an excuse for her behavior is enabling her, and it will burn them in the end. Should they kick her out? No, but consequences are important. For instance, my sister screwed up one semester and my parents were paying for school. They made her pay the next semester and they would pay her back if she passed, and it worked. Hopefully, whomever paid for school can still get reimbursed for this semester. The parents should also be giving consequences for her partying behavior, which puts them all at risk for that pesky virus. Do I smell the stench of a golden child here, or am I just imagining it? At least a bit of hypocrisy from the parents' side. OP, you did nothing wrong here. Your parents are showing clear favoritism towards your sister here, hence, the pandemic has been hard on us all, and that it should be understandable if people don't have the same energy to get to class. Kind of excuse that she gave to you. Yes, the pandemic has been hard on us all, but that doesn't excuse your sister still partying during a bloody pandemic and skipping school, thus putting you all in risk of getting the virus. Pretty selfish behavior, actually. Therefore, you're not the a-hole, OP. And OP replies, for the most part, they didn't play favorites. I think Mum does see herself more in my younger sister, though, than she does me. Not exactly an overly girly girl. Not the a-hole. For most of the post, I was worried she might be having mental health issues, but then you said she's been partying and she lost my sympathy. I'm not saying it couldn't be a mental health issue, but it seems like she's just a selfish person who didn't want to go to school. She does not deserve your sympathy, especially since her social life is putting your whole family at risk. And edit, I didn't mean to offend anyone. After thinking about it further, I think OP needs to talk to their parents about getting their sister some help. As someone who has suffered from depression and anxiety my whole life, I did not mean to trivialize mental health issues. A similar thing happened to me in college, and I wasn't even thinking about that. If she is anything like I was at that age, it's good if she's not in school for a while. She most likely needs to see a therapist and/or doctor and look into if she needs medication. The fact that she wasn't bothering to log in at all is definitely a bad sign that it's more than pure laziness. Posted by user Temporary AmITheA 9000, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my ex she'll have to live without her closure? I'm gonna cut to the chase. I, 36 male, got about a year or so left before making that final trip to the afterlife. I've made my peace with it, and these last few years have been the best of my life. We've known each other for a while that I was living on borrowed time, so we vacationed a lot before the pandemic. Everyone knows I probably won't be here by next year. Well, as it turns out, my old ex decided to come back into my life. We were together since high school. Before I proposed, I found out she was cheating with one of her friends and broke up when we were 27. It was the darkest time of my life until I was pushed into going to therapy. 3 years later, I got back into dating and met my wife. Got married after 2 years and we've been together ever since. She's been the most incredible partner through all of this, and I don't know how I would have made it without her. You can guess why my ex came back. She'd like us to meet so she could formally apologize to me and have one last conversation. I said no way. She is the last person I want to see right now, and she didn't take it well, I guess. Our families are somewhat close. Her parents have been my aunt's neighbors before either of us were even born, so they still saw each other after we split. My aunt heard from her folks that I'm refusing to see her, and she's gotten my parents involved. Now they all hate her, except my aunt, who has always had a soft spot for her, but they do feel like maybe we should talk before I go. I don't know what exactly they think this will bring, aside from just dragging up painful memories. I don't want to bring up anything from the past and focus on making the most with my wife and family. They left it alone at first, until my ex tried to reach me again, asking to please meet. My ex says she's heartbroken over my condition and just wants us to talk so we can have closure. But I explained to her that I had mine years ago and am in a better place. And where I believe I was the a-hole was telling her she's gonna have to live without hers. I'm getting a little more ridicule from my aunt and my dad. Mum's still a bit on my side about it. They do think what I said was very insensitive, and it's clearly painful for her knowing what she did to me and that I'll be gone soon. My wife is completely on my side here and actually gave my dad a piece of her mind. It was pretty hot to see. She rarely ever yells, for making things more complicated for me. They've left me alone, but it's still in my mind, and I don't know how exactly I was an a-hole for saying that. I had said it as a statement, there is no reason for us to speak except it being for her benefit, and since I'd rather not, then she will in fact have to live without that closure. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I could be the a-hole for saying something insensitive to my ex after refusing to meet her one last time before I passed on. I don't get why you think telling her she won't get her closure is an insensitive thing to do. Yeah, it's angering people in your close social circle, and they don't want you to deny her that closure, but that's not their decision to make. They're not you. They don't feel your emotions and what you felt when she betrayed you like that. They didn't pull you out of that emotional hole and get you into therapy and get you that closure that you got for yourself. No one did that work besides you. They aren't justified in pressuring you like they are, and your ex isn't entitled to that closure. She abandoned you and didn't feel remorse about it until after she learned that you were dying. That apology she's giving you comes with strings attached, and I don't think it's sincere or genuine at all. She wouldn't have wanted to give that apology if she hadn't found out that you were dying. She didn't care, so why should you? It doesn't strike me as you spiting her or being petty if you deny that closure. It's your life to live, man. I'm gonna go not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Alice and Rabbit says, not the a-hole. It's been years, you've moved on and are happy. She's exploiting the situation and wants to apologize to play the bereaved ex role later on. She could have apologized and had closure years ago. The timing feels selfish and you're not obligated to indulge her. I agree that OP is not the a-hole. He has no obligation to her, especially not one created from her being crappy to him. I don't think that makes it fair game for us to read the worst motives into her though. She could be doing this so that she can get public sympathy later, but it doesn't seem that likely to me. It sounds like she's just selfish and wants to get OP to tell her that she isn't an a-hole for what she did before he dies. Or it could be something else. If she didn't want the attention, she wouldn't have involved the families. It's a private matter between them. Family has no place in it. I agree. Even now as he's dying, she's all about her and how she feels. What she needs before he dies. She's selfish. That's what I would say to her and anybody who does not have the OP's back in this situation. He gets to spend however long he has left making himself happy, and anyone who doesn't put his needs and feelings as a top priority needs to shut the hell up. She could privately speak her piece in a letter and mail it off, giving OP the option to read or toss her words. It's none of OP or the family's business that she's struggling and needs closure. That's her private business and nobody else's. If she puts her thoughts down on paper and decided to actually mail it, she would have her closure, and OP could control how they deal with the letter. No conversations necessary, and no unnecessary family drama. I don't care about your ex. I just want to wish you strength, joy, peace, love, and light, whatever makes you happy on your journey beyond. Not the a-hole. And OP replies, I appreciate it, friend. All the best to you as well. Enjoy life to the fullest. I wish you the best with the time you had, have, and hopefully will have in your next adventure. Came to say that, OP, not the a-hole. You deserve nothing but joy in your life. She's responsible for her whatever consequential feelings she has. Closure is a lame excuse to keep the door open and see if she still has you in her back pocket. She doesn't. She made the choice to cheat, causing a dark period in your life. Any feelings she needs to reconcile are her responsibility. Also, what a turd she is to exploit your mortality. All love and light to you as you live your best life for the rest of it without bullcrap interference. And Kinder Surprise says, not the a-hole. It's selfish of her to think that you owe her anything, least of all closure. You sound incredibly emotionally mature, and I'm so happy you have someone like your wife by your side as you come to the end of your journey. And all I want to say on that front is, death isn't the end. I'm wishing you luck, friend. And OP replies, I feel incredibly lucky to have someone like her by my side, even if it hurts knowing I'll be leaving her too soon. Thank you for your wishes. Glad to have gotten thoughts from others on this situation. Think of it this way, if your ex didn't cheat on you, you wouldn't have been able to marry your wife probably. Not the a-hole, I don't understand why your father is listening to your aunt. It's up to you if you want to talk or not. They're acting like you cheated and she's the one dying. Weird. I don't feel bad, man. Enjoy the rest of your life and make more memories with your wife. Posted by user Anon620949. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my wife to stop calling herself a mother? So my wife and I have been together for 5 years and married for 3. I'm 26 and she's 25. Before we got together when she was 17, she was with someone else and she got pregnant. She lost that baby at 32 weeks due to the baby contracting a lung infection and dying. It sucks and is tragic, and she visits the baby's grave every year on the anniversary of its death. I have no problem with that. When people ask if we have any kids, I say no, and she says she had a baby, but it passed away. It makes people really uncomfortable, and we've talked about how not everyone needs to know about her dead kid. Our issue arose when yesterday, which was supposed to be her due date, she went and got a tattoo of the baby's handprints and the name she gave it, which she had been talking about for years, and I was always reluctant for her to do. It seems kinda trashy, but I don't like tattoos in general. And posted it on Facebook with a big long caption about how, even though she wasn't his Earthside mother for long, he taught her so much, and how being his mother was the greatest gift she could ask for. I told her to stop calling herself a mother and posting depressing stuff on Facebook. It was almost a decade ago, and she's still holding on to it. What is she gonna say when we have kids? That she has this many kids alive and this many dead? She told me I was being an insensitive dickhead, and it's no different than if her baby died at 6 months old. She still held it, fed it with her body, loved it, and created a space in her world for it. She hasn't talked to me since yesterday, and slept in our guest room. I feel like she needs to get over it because it was almost 10 years ago, and she's acting like it's fresh. Am I the a-hole? The baby didn't die in utero or was stillborn. It was born, developed a lung infection, and died like 5 days after it was born. I don't think this is one of those things that you just let go of and never speak of it again. 32 weeks is a long time to be holding a child, and the OP even said in the comments down below that it was alive for 5 whole days before it passed. That was her entire world for all of those months, and it would have destroyed her after losing her baby. How are you 26 years old and not of the mental capacity to understand that it's okay for her to continue to grieve the loss of her child? You're so goddamn insensitive to your partner. And if this is the wake-up call you need to realize that, then please take it and do better and never say anything like this to her again. Yes, you're the a-hole for telling your wife to stop calling herself a mother because she very much was one, and life took a very bad turn for her. You saying all of this cannot be helping her in the slightest. Please stop. Now in the comments, MM172 says, "You're the a-hole, massively. If you're not trolling, I'm not sure how you could possibly think otherwise. 32 weeks is a baby. She lost her baby. You don't get over that. Ever. If you think grief counseling might help her in dealing with that, feel free to suggest it, but demanding she act like it didn't count because her child never drew breath is gobsmackingly cruel and insensitive. The baby was born and lived for 5 days. OP makes it sound like a stillbirth, but it wasn't, which adds to his already breathtaking a-hole level by quite a bit, because apparently his take is that she never brought it home from the hospital, so she's not a mother. Can you even imagine? You're the a-hole. What the hell is wrong with you? I think it's called being devoid of empathy. More like devoid of humanity. You're the a-hole, she is a mother. You don't get to gatekeep motherhood or grief. She is not the trashy one here. Seriously, I read the headline expecting OP's wife to have had a chemical pregnancy or own a bunch of ferrets that she calls herself the mother of. But a baby that she had carried long enough that the pregnancy had passed viability? My word, OP is terrible. Worse, the baby was born and lived for 5 days. I can't even imagine how shattered I would have been had I lost my child shortly after my wife gave birth. Seriously, I'm not usually on the divorce bandwagon on these posts, but my word, I wouldn't want to spend my life stuck with someone so callous. My fiancé was more sensitive than this guy after our embryo transfer failed while doing IVF, and we didn't even get a positive pregnancy test. And Webby Vanderquack says, "You're the a-hole. I really hope you're trolling. It makes people really uncomfortable. Not only are you incredibly cruel, but I don't buy that it makes anyone but you uncomfortable. If someone tells me they've lost a child, I feel empathy, not discomfort. Yeah, it makes OP uncomfortable. He wants to control her narrative. I get the feeling he's ashamed of her having had a child with someone else and doesn't want anyone to know about it. If this were his own offspring who passed, he wouldn't mind at all. Guarantee it." Posted by user Sister's Puppy. Titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my cousin, at least I know my parents wanted me, when she kept making comments about me not being family?" Some backstory. I, female 17, was adopted when I was 3 months old. My cousin, 17 female, is my grandparents' only bio grandchild, but she seems to be the only one that cares about that. She doesn't like me because I got a full scholarship to a performing arts school and she didn't get accepted. And when my grandpa gave us his cars, I got the better one. We had a family dinner last week and my grandparents asked about my boyfriend. My grandma jokingly asked when we're getting married because she wants a great-grandchild. I laughed and said, "It'll be a while," and my cousin cut in and said, "They probably want a real great-grandchild anyway." I brushed it off and kept talking to my grandma. When we were about to have dessert, my grandpa realized he forgot to get ice cream and asked me to drive into town and buy some. My cousin made another comment about how she's the only real family member, so she should have gotten the good car. Grandpa told her to shut up and that I got the new car because I help them out and come to visit them almost every day, and she doesn't. After dessert, my grandpa said that we should take my sister, 14, to the backyard and teach her how to drive the golf cart. I agreed and I told her that I was driving that thing into town to run errands all the time when I was her age. Sorry, I'm just going to interrupt the story. Is that normal? Do 14-year-olds drive golf carts into town to run errands? Is that a normal thing? My grandpa then told her maybe if she likes driving it, he'll give it to her. My cousin lost it. She started screeching that it's not fair that we get everything and we're not even their real family. That pissed me off because she said it in front of my youngest sister and made her cry. So I snapped at her and said, "At least we know our family wanted us." Ooh! Cousin screamed and stormed off, and my sisters got more ice cream. My grandparents think that that was hilarious and that I was totally in the right. My dad also thinks I'm in the right, but my mum thinks that was mean and I should apologize. So I wanted to know if I was the a-hole. They're the ones spewing more vitriol in this situation. And I think, come on, if you can't take it, don't spray it, honey. It's absolutely this cousin's fault that they got burnt as bad as they did. They were looking for trouble. OP, you're morally in the right here, and I can atone that little sin of saying at least you were wanted, because fighting back in this situation was the right thing to do. Shows us you ain't no pushover, and revealed the cousin has no spine at all. Good job all round, not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Coffee Beer Life says, "Not the a-hole. How long can she continue to be disrespectful before someone snapped at her? She got what she deserved, and it wasn't like you were just overly mean to her. She honestly just sounds spoiled rotten." Just like the Joker said, "You get what you frickin' deserve, bam!" Right in the kisser. Childhood is idolizing Batman. Adulthood is realizing the Joker may have a point. Sociopathy is relating with the womanizing psychopathic murderer and crime lord. And idiocy is writing off an entire topic as evil without taking any time to understand it. It has nothing to do with relating to the Joker, it's the philosophical opposition between Batman and the Joker. Sorry, I just really like reading these comments and I thought some people would too. Not the a-hole, and good on you, OP. No one has the right to make you feel like you're not part of the family. Your grandparents and parents sound like amazing people. Except her mum at the moment. Have to respectfully disagree there. With the facts I have here, the mum was perfectly entitled to make the comment provided that A, it was done in private, i.e. not a public naming and shaming, and B, it was said respectfully. OP, please correct my assumptions above if either weren't true or you felt attacked in any way. And they replied to that, "I guess I read into it too much. I'm cool with the mum saying apologize just because it was mean. If the mum is cool with cousin's behavior though, then I'm not cool with the mum." Agreed on that. If the behavior is condoned, that would be abominable. But user Can't Eat Cats Kevin, that was a great discussion. I really love it when I can present a differing opinion that gets discussed civilly. You're awesome. I also love when internet people can change their opinion and perspective. Excellent interaction, my good person. Come on guys in the comments, let's take their lead, hey? Haha. And Merlot Mystery says, "Not the a-hole. Good job for defending your family. Your mum is right. It was mean. It was also justified and the appropriate response to someone who was being deliberately provocative and cruel. Your mum may be like my grandmother, a peacekeeper through and through. Peacekeepers like this can be wonderful to have in families, but they can also rug sweep for the sake of peace, which isn't okay. That said, it sounds like your cousin actually has more of a beef with your grandparents than with you. She's taking it out on you, but it sounds like she resents the strained relationship she has with them, and it hurts her to be pushed aside. She may have no one to blame but herself, but that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt her." Alright, moving on from that, and our next post is by user Throwaway Command, titled, "Am I the a-hole for evicting my son and his pregnant girlfriend because he wants his real dad and not me? So when my son was 10, I caught my wife cheating and got a divorce. I tested all my children and 3 were mine, but my oldest 10-year-old son was not. I was mad, but eventually got over it, and I didn't want to treat him separately than his siblings at first. Unfortunately, his mum told him about his bio dad against our agreement, and at 18, he started regularly calling and speaking to him. Well, he's 20 now, and he got a girl pregnant. Since she had nowhere to stay, I decided to let her move in with my son so they could continue going to college while raising their kid. Well, my son's relationship with his bio dad really took off, I guess. The emotions and everything all came to a head recently at the child's baby shower, wherein he gifted his bio dad a shirt that said Grandpa on it. Moreover, he has started occasionally calling me by my first name, even in front of our other kids. He sort of made it clear to me that biology is more important than the man who raised him. So instead of giving them a gift on the baby shower, I quickly drew up a 30-day eviction notice after a quick call with my attorney and replaced my present with that. I'm just tired of the disrespect. But apparently he didn't see it coming because he was completely blindsided. I should also add that I've overheard him saying other things like, my real dad was a Marine, and stuff like that when he thinks I'm not home. I told him to go live at his real dad's house if he wanted. The only reason that he doesn't live there now is because it's a single-bedroom apartment. I'm also going to stop paying his tuition next semester and just kinda cut him off completely. Am I the a-hole for evicting my son and his pregnant girlfriend because he doesn't think of me as a dad anymore? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I think I may be the a-hole for evicting my son and his pregnant girlfriend for my own emotional sanity. Jesus, you really went explosive no-holds-barred mode there, didn't you? I think you may have jumped a few steps to getting emotional reconciliation and saving your sanity by doing this to them. Just maybe. Obviously, from what you've said, your son's somewhat disowning you as a father and taking the reins as someone who didn't raise them, and your wife cheated on you with as well, and had their child. Seems to me like the fun parent syndrome that kids have with co-parenting, where the fun dad is favored over the strict mum kind of thing, and I can't imagine that feels good at all. I imagine that feels disgusting. It feels terrible. So therapy and taking things slowly and logically in this situation would have been the right thing to do, I imagine. But that's not what happened. It seems your emotions took a hold, and you did what you felt was best for you. I can't particularly blame you for that, since I'm a big advocate for the look after yourself and then others mindset. You know, don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. But I'm seeing it more like you set your son, his girlfriend, and their baby on fire just to keep yourself warm. Obviously, what he did was wrong. There is no debating that, and some people will say it's deserved. Maybe it is, but I don't think evicting him was what he deserved. I'm gonna go with everyone sucks here. Now in the comments, Illustrious T8920 says, "Son, you're not my dad. You're not the grandfather to my children. My real dad was a Marine." Stepdad says, "Okay then, go to your real dad if you want help." Son goes, surprised Pikachu face. Haha. Everyone sucks here. You for not talking about your feelings sooner to your son for not realizing how much his comments hurt, and relying on your help while simultaneously trying to erase your relationship with him. I'm gonna jump on this bandwagon and say, I'm shocked at all the comments that say OP needed to talk to his son to let him know how hurt he was. His son's actions were not subtle, and he is no longer a child. This is a 20-year-old man about to become a father himself. He should know by now how crappy his behavior has been toward the man who raised him. I don't care how cool he thinks his bio dad is. He's not a 10-year-old meeting his bio dad for the first time. This sub is constantly telling 18-year-olds they're old enough to tell their parents to take a hike. Well, here it is. A young adult literally told the man who raised him that he is not good enough to be a grandfather of his child, in front of a whole group of other people, and then stopped calling him dad while calling the other man dad. If he's old enough to decide which dad he wants, then he's also old enough to know that what he did was crappy and there is no excuse. You can't have it both ways, that he's old enough to make up his mind, and then maybe doesn't know what he's doing hurts someone else. And why is it OP's responsibility to tell his son that this behavior hurts? If someone punched you in the face a few times, are you supposed to stop and go, "Hey, that hurts," in case you didn't know, before you walk away? Not the a-hole. I really like that one, actually. I would change my response to that now if I could travel back in time, which I have the ability to do, but again, I'm lazy. So I'm going to choose not to, but I will change my answer to I agree with that, not the a-hole. Thank you. I'm Team OP. I'd be angry too, watching his son dump him after continuing to provide for son and pregnant girlfriend. My gosh. Dumping your dad after dad did not dump you when he found out son was not his, plus supporting girlfriend too, then having a scene play out with his son showering by your dad and calling the man who raised him by his first name? You would be angry too. Too many people are saying dad must not have been so great if son took off, while disregarding the great things dad did for his son and his pregnant girlfriend. If someone put a dagger through my heart in front of friends and family, I wouldn't be able to hold back to spare their feelings. They didn't spare dad's. They made a spectacle of him and made him look like a fool. The son sounds like an entitled, spoilt brat. OP is not the a-hole. Let me point out that the shower was in OP's house, so he let the bio dad, the man who helped his wife cheat on him and then abandoned his responsibilities to OP, into his house. Info. Have you ever spoken to your son about your relationship with him? How you felt about his relationship with his bio father? About what living agreements after he turned 18? After his girlfriend moved in? Were there conditions or rules? Rent? Did you talk to him about your feelings towards being seen as his dad versus his relationship with his bio father? He answered no in another comment. I'm not very open about my emotions because I was raised to keep everything in my head because I was a man. So I guess he didn't know how much it hurt me and I wanted him to feel my pain, I guess. I don't know. Thank you for this update. Yeah, I get bottling up your emotions, especially if you're trying to be an anti-drama queen. However, if it causes you to explode and act out like this, talking to an attorney and serving your son and his pregnant girlfriend at their baby shower instead of even trying to have a previous conversation, then that's immature a-hole behavior. Gonna have to go with I don't agree with that. I feel like the son is 20 years old and it's deserved. Posted by user The Falklands War, titled, Am I the a-hole for insulting a fat girl after she told me to eat a burger? We're both 17 female for context. Basically, someone in my friend group at school, who I'll call Jenny, is pretty overweight and clearly insecure about it, whereas the rest of the group are all slim. I've never mentioned weight, calories, health, etc. in front of her because I know she's insecure. She has a habit of implying that we're all too skinny, in what feels like a disparaging way, but we tend to ignore her. But one time at lunchtime, I wasn't hungry, so I didn't eat anything, and I swear she was giving me dirty looks the whole time, then said, "You should really start eating more," to me. To clarify, it was obvious that she was saying it to be insulting, not because she cared about my health or anything. I normally eat loads. So anyway, I was annoyed at this comment and said, "What, and start to look like you? No thanks." Then she walked out and was very upset. Objectively, I accept that what I said was very mean, and my friends think I was in the wrong. One of them said that it would have been fine if I'd told Jenny to eat a salad or something that was a direct inversion of what she said. But since I expressly insulted the way Jenny looks, I'm in the wrong. I see what they mean, especially since I know she's insecure. However, I was just sick of her taking her insecurities out on me and my friends. It's not like I can't be insecure either. I've always felt too flat, so it's not really fun when she implies that I'm too skinny. Just want to know if I was justified in what I said to her, or am I the a-hole? So, I guess my opinion on this is that she shouldn't have started it, or given you all of those dirty looks that she did, simply because you weren't eating anything. It's not her place to be giving you dietary advice or seeing what is or isn't good for you. But at the same time, this is the schoolyard, so really there aren't any rules when it comes to interactions like this. Yeah, sure, you shouldn't have said what you said, but if she didn't want to be called out, she shouldn't have started it, plain and simple. I think what you said was wrong, yes, but was justified in this situation. Still makes you a bad person for saying it, but I don't think it's really a big deal. Everyone sucks here, but good that you stood up for yourself. Now in the comments, Supervillain85 says, everyone sucks here. She's obviously an a-hole for thin shaming you, and you went straight for the jugular and fat shamed her. You had a chance to be better than her and you didn't take it. We can just call it body shaming. No need to specify thin, skinny, fat, because it's all the same at the end of the day. Sounds to me like she's taken the chance to be better than her many times before. It takes different people different amounts of time to be fed up with people's insults before you strike back. As a person that doesn't take crap from anyone, I think this girl had it coming after years of bullcrap. Doesn't sound like she ever spoke to the fat girl about the disparaging nature of her comments. If she did, she didn't write that in the post. Just stewed in it until she lashed out and acted exactly the same way. Makes her no better. Agreed. This is a mistake that a lot of people make. Your choices aren't sit there and take it or act like an a-hole back to them. Most people make one of those two choices because they're uncomfortable with confrontation, and so they avoid it until they finally have an emotional reaction that they can't control. But the far better response is usually to steel yourself against the discomfort and address the behavior calmly but firmly when it first happens. Please don't comment on my body or my eating habits. This is a courtesy that I extend to you. You've never once heard me comment on your body or what you're eating, or not eating, correct? So please extend the same courtesy and kindness to me. And then, if you get pushback or it reoccurs, say, it's really rude to comment on someone else's eating choices. You're not my doctor, and it's not your business, please stop. Which can be escalated to, I'm not willing to spend the time with you if you can't treat me with this basic level of respect. So if that's how you feel about it, I'm gonna go. And ta-da! You've successfully drawn boundaries and made it clear that her behavior is unacceptable and won't be tolerated without ever calling her names or preying on her insecurity. This is what being the bigger person actually looks like. Not just ignoring bad behavior until you finally snap. Yeah, that's all well and good, but these people are 17 years old and they don't have the, capacity to say this in the moment. You're emotionally charged, you're going to fire back. These 3 big, long responses that are logical and well thought out. It's not even going to cross the mind of a lot of 17-year-olds. And the one you're saying it to isn't going to listen to what you're saying. They're just going to be thinking of a response the whole time and how they're going to piss you off even further. Sure, it's good advice in a vacuum, but practically speaking in the real world, you're just going to be laughed at and made fun of for saying something like this. So genuinely, for the context of this situation, I think that's bad advice. Another comment says, this is one of those situations where I'd say not the a-hole by virtue of her bullying. Strictly speaking, it was harsh, but she's clearly sublimating her self-loathing into being crappy to other people, and she's upset that you clapped back. If she punched other people to make herself feel better, and you finally punched back, would anyone say that you were part of the problem? This is exactly what I was thinking. Miss Jenny doesn't get to constantly harass and try to shame everyone else for being thinner than her, and then be hurt when someone finally claps back with the exact same crap that she's dishing out. She can shut the hell up and take it like a big girl, or stop being such a d-bag. Not the a-hole. Posted by user New Cauliflower 9004. Titled, Am I the a-hole for banning my sister from seeing my kids after what she said? Let me make it clear. I completely understand that having kids is not for everybody. I respect this and have no problem with it. I, 37 male, have 5 children, 10, 8, 5, 3, and a 5-month-old son. All of whom which have only recently met my sister, 33 female. She's a wonderful person, but has always been a bit of a free-spirited person and likes to be in several other places besides home. Obviously, she's only really seen them through Skype calls, but they seemed to be really hitting it off. And then, a few days ago, my mum sent me pictures of texts she'd exchanged with my sister, in which my sister called my kids brats, and that she cringed throughout each and every call because the kids, apparently, were just so terrible to talk to. I sent the texts to my sister to see what she had to say. My sister asked what I wanted her to say, and that she's just telling the truth. I told her that if that's how she felt, she was not allowed to see the kids in any way, shape, or form. Now my mum's on my back, saying that she had wanted us to talk about it like civilized adults and that I had overreacted. She told me that my sister had a right to her own opinion and she was just exercising that right. Is she right? I can kinda see both sides of the argument, I guess. If you hadn't reacted the way you did and approached this situation without as much spite as you did, then you wouldn't be an a-hole in this situation. Your sister definitely shouldn't have said those things about your kids, for sure, but people do that, and they try to keep it private. And this time, that information was leaked to you. There's nothing wrong with her speaking her truth, that's fine, but this truth hurt OP and caused them to react emotionally. It's the whole freedom of speech dilemma, you should be free to say what you want, but you're not free from the consequences of those words. And there are a lot of consequences that came with this woman's words. Obviously, we can't control the things that happen to us, but we can control how we react to them. But I can't imagine OP or their partner is in a headspace right now to react in a justified way. Having 5 kids, and one be only 5 months old, kinda causes you to not sleep all too much and be tired and stressed all the time, at least I imagine. It sure wouldn't be nice to have all of this going on and then to hear that about your kids, and I can't blame OP for reacting the way they did. But regardless, they still kinda did the wrong thing here, that's for sure. Both parties. These things happen. You're probably just gonna go no contact, and that's fine. Probably right now, better to have that sister out of your life. But I have to vote everyone sucks here. And in the comments, OK Sympathy says, everyone sucks here. Really, your mum's the a-hole here. What your sister said was crappy, but she said it in confidence, not to you. It sounds like she doesn't like kids, but has been trying for your sake and was venting. It's understandable that you're mad, but cutting her out this dramatically does seem uncalled for. Why your mum felt the need to send you the texts and then insert herself into the argument from there is beyond me. That said, if the sister is so put out by talking to OP's kids, why is this ban such a big deal? OP is protecting her kids' feelings from potentially getting hurt in case their auntie says something mean directly to them. I don't see why OP is the a-hole here. For that matter, I also don't think the sister is the a-hole because she wasn't trying to hurt anyone's feelings. She shared an opinion with her mother, and her mother, the only real a-hole here, showed it to OP. I mean, the sister hasn't even said anything rude to OP, so it's a stretch to think that she would say something to the kids. And banning her from seeing the kids is basically cutting her out of OP's life, which seems like an overreaction at best. She may not say something directly to the kids, but issues like this have the potential to bleed through in the interactions, more than not through unintentional human behavior. Oftentimes in a passive-aggressive manner. Everybody here is behaving immaturely, but the sister least of all. Venting is a functioning strategy to get rid of the bad feelings. Mum, on the other hand, clearly favors her son so much, she immediately ratted out her daughter. Calling kids brats when they're likely just being normal kids is not the a-hole behavior, no matter what r/childfree says. You don't know whether the kids are just being kids or acting bratty. I have bratty cousins. We all know they're bratty and frequently mention as such to other parties should it be warranted. Doesn't mean anyone is cutting anyone out of the family. JLoveDC26 says, your mum is the a-hole. Everyone would be blissfully ignorant and making efforts to get along if she had stayed out of it. If my sister was talking so much crap about my kids behind my back, I would want to know. The sister was being horribly two-faced to a bunch of kids, and OP's mother simply let OP know what was up. She's not the a-hole, and neither is OP. All that the sister said is, the kids were acting like brats the whole time, talking over each other. That's nothing. Look, I have 3 kids. I cringe when they talk with their cousins, friends, or family, cause it is cringy and cannot be fun. At other times, it's great, etc. It's a learning process, whatever. Kids can also be brats and a-holes, and any parents that think otherwise, I typically lump into the "my little angel would never do that" bunch. I avoid those people. Posted by user ThrowRA3534321, titled, "Am I the a-hole for making my 40 female, eldest daughter, 15 female, do more work than her siblings?" So my daughter Anna, 15 going on 16, is great. She does all her work, she doesn't throw tantrums and is energetic. But I think over the years, especially as she became a teenager, she realized that she did much more work than her 3 other siblings. Don't get me wrong, she still does her chores, but every now and then, she acts up to somehow prove to us that what we were doing was supposedly unfair. For example, when I told her and her sister, Sarah, 13 female, to hang the clothes, Anna came out first and starts doing her job, while Sarah took more than 5 minutes. Anna got annoyed and tells me that her sister is taking so long and that she's already nearly finished. I was conflicted. Anna was already nearly finished, and if I asked Sarah to go and help her, Sarah would likely get mad. I thought it was not worth it, and told Anna to please just finish herself. When things like this happened, usually Anna would just sigh and say okay. But more often now, she leaves her job unfinished. When I gently tell her to go and finish it, usually I'm busy with farm work, making dinner, etc., Anna triumphantly says something along the lines of, "Well, you didn't tell Sarah to go and do it. Why are you telling me?" Today, as Anna, me, and my husband worked at the farm, she said she thought Sarah was so selfish. She was going on about how we never really saw Sarah's true side, how bullied our son. We've already seriously talked to Sarah about it, how Sarah was so dumb, and the reason why Anna will never have kids was because she shared Sarah's genetics. I felt terrible. At nighttime, we always have 2 hours of study after school for all the kids. Sarah decided upon herself to finish 30 minutes early, and Anna told me what happened. I was tired after farm work and was definitely not up for an argument. I ignored Anna and went to teach my son. Anna never said anything after, but she started speaking to me less, talking less. I don't know if this means anything, but I saw her writing in her diary late last night when I went to shower. I feel like ever since she became a teenager, she started diaries, and I sometimes see her writing in it before night. I don't pry and leave her be, but I feel like she's hiding something against us. These days, she's not afraid to express her hatred against them, even in front of them. Her and her siblings have extremely rough relationships. They never exactly go into full arguments and fights, but will definitely take malicious jabs at each other. My daughters themselves have already made it clear to me that they hate each other. My kids all hate each other. Anna especially hates her siblings. I feel like Anna is starting to not trust me and my husband anymore. I feel like a failure of a parent and I don't know what to do. Am I the a-hole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I feel like a terrible mother. I feel like as a result of my actions, my daughter has become hateful. You seem like you've not taken any accountability to stop any of this infighting, and instead just watch it from a distance instead. That doesn't seem like effective parenting to me. Saying you're always busy with farm work and that this caught you out of the blue seems like a cop-out in all honesty. If you knowingly made one child do more work than the others, and then you don't fix it when that gets found out, then yes, you're the a-hole. You've done nothing but cause division between your kids. Now in the comments, Valoneria says, "You're the a-hole. Every excuse made on Sarah's behalf never applied to Anna. the bullying, and the unwillingness to deal with Sarah. Either someone is a golden child, or someone knows how to throw the biggest tantrum. This is an issue that'll devolve into necessary therapy soon, if you wish your kids to stay on good feet with Sarah, and you as well. This, OP, read this and think. Your behavior is what caused this, so you're the a-hole. You make it sound like Anna is a maid and not your child. You don't talk to her in a nice way at all, and make it sound like she's a burden to you. Your other daughter throws tantrums and seems to really have some behavioral problems that you need to be addressing very seriously. I got serious parentification vibes on this post. Especially the part where Anna says she doesn't want to have kids. I hear that a lot with child-free people, that one of the reasons they don't want to have kids is they spent their entire childhood raising their siblings. You're the a-hole. You're punishing your oldest for behaving in a great way and avoiding parenting your younger daughter because it could be difficult. Anna has clearly caught on that there is a double standard and is rightfully upset. For instance, rather than have Sarah help with laundry, when you realized it would make Sarah upset to save yourself from having to deal with Sarah's attitude, you just let Anna do extra work. Sarah's attitude should have been your problem as the parent and not become Anna's problem by you not wanting to cope with it. Parenting is super hard, and so I hope this isn't too harsh, but since you asked, I do think you're the a-hole in this situation. And OP replies, "Thank you for your comment, I understand. Yes, I will enforce stricter rules. During writing this, I was really confused and panicked. Seeing these judgments has been a wake-up call. Thank you. Remember, silence is acceptance. If you don't stand up for Anna, your silence is approval of Sarah's behavior. When you don't call Sarah on her crap, your silence is that it is acceptable. This is what your kids are learning from you. You're the a-hole. This is coming from a 17-year-old girl with 2 little brothers. One is 9 years younger than me, the other is 12 years younger. I babysit them about 6 hours a day every weekday on top of schoolwork. It gets really hard sometimes, to the point I wish my parents didn't have them, even if I love them both to hell and back. It's also the reason I've known I want to be child-free since middle school. Considering your children are all around the same age, that is only making it worse. You need to stop letting Sarah off the hook because she'll throw a tantrum, and not Anna because she's the oldest. The way I see it, based on the stories I've read and the ones told to me by friends that grew up in not-so-nice households, if you keep this up, Sarah will turn into a lazy, entitled brat when she becomes an adult, and Anna will move out of the house the moment she's 18. And there's a very real chance she won't want to connect with you once she's an adult. If I'm being honest, your favoritism is what's causing Anna to hate her siblings and not want her to do work or trust and talk to you. Anna is someone who either has trouble saying no or just isn't that confrontational if you are to ask me. It doesn't matter how you say it. Being a teenager may be contributing to it, but please, please stop before it destroys your relationship with your daughter like it did with me and my dad. And OP replies, "Thank you so much for sharing your story and opinion. After reading these comments, I think I understand now what to do." And our next post is by user Throwaway1Stagugaka, titled, "Am I the a-hole for calling my cousin-in-law a bitter cow because her daughter wasn't the first great-grandchild anymore? My cousin-in-law Stella has been obsessed with having the first great-grandchild in our family ever since she married my cousin 5 years ago. When her daughter was born, she was constantly going on and on about how she was my grandfather's first great-grandchild and how her daughter was the family legacy. It was annoying, but her daughter is adorable, so we all sucked it up and humored her. Well, 3 months ago, my older brother, who was my grandfather's golden boy, found out he had a son. Without going into too much detail, my brother met Kiera while he was at a very low point in his life and was taking a break, i.e., hiding away from life/our family. He gave her a fake backstory and name, so when he left, she had no way to contact him to let him know she was pregnant. It took her until 3 months ago to finally get in touch with him. This has caused a whole scandal in my family, because my brother is the last person anyone would think would accidentally father a child. My cousins all thought that this would knock him off the golden boy pedestal, but my grandfather was worried my brother would never have kids, so this has had the opposite effect. From what my cousin/Stella's sister-in-law has told me, Stella was fuming when she found out, because my nephew was 2 months older than her daughter, making him the first great-grandchild. My brother is trying to convince Kiera to relocate to our city, so when she brought their son so our family could meet him, we were all on our best behavior. Stella hated it. She kept complaining everyone was treating my nephew better than they had ever treated her daughter, and she started accusing my grandfather of being misogynistic. After the 3rd day of her complaining, I told her to stop being a bitter cow because her daughter was no longer the first great-grandchild. She's since told everyone what I said, and my aunt scolded me for being insensitive, and basically made this whole thing about Stella and how hard this was for her. My cousin also sent me a long message, which essentially said I was an insensitive a-hole. Am I the a-hole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. Stella has based her whole identity for the past 5 years on being the mother of my grandfather's first great-grandchild. While I personally think the whole thing is ridiculous, I can understand why someone would be bitter and upset when they think they finally achieved their goal, only to unexpectedly find out someone else had beat them to it. As my mother said, I could have been more sensitive towards her feelings. After 3 days of consistent whining, I'm surprised no one else spoke up and shut her down with all that stupid bickering about being the first to have a great-grandchild in the family. Congrats! You're the first to not pull out in your family's current generation! Woohoo! Go you! Here's a gold star! You're awesome, mate! But yeah, no, back on topic, calling her a cow, and I'm gonna assume a bunch of other stuff that you probably kept out of the post, led to people calling you insensitive. But curious, it doesn't seem like they think it was undeserved though, which I think is very interesting. So yeah, nothing much else to say on that one besides everyone sucks here. Now in the comments, Fuzzy Mike says, "You were doing fine, right up to the word cow. Between your cousin's silliness and your rudeness, everyone sucks here. Better cow than certain 4-letter words. Calf, I get you. Wouldn't want to infantilize her too. Good thinking. Everyone sucks here. This is a ridiculous tradition based on birth order, and it's always really gross when people worry about their inheritance. Stella is an ass for crowing about how her baby was the first, and now crying that it isn't true. You're the a-hole for the way you chose to speak to her. Your brother, though, the golden child, is the biggest a-hole in the story for giving a false name and now trying to get this woman to relocate to him rather than maybe relocating to be closer to her. Even without the relocating part, your brother is a gigantic a-hole. Yeah. He's a terrible person who is somehow being rewarded by everyone else in this story for doing a terrible thing. Everyone sucks here. Your brother put the now mother of his child in a difficult position by not being honest with her about who he was. Stella's complaints were poorly timed, though they may be legitimate. You're the a-hole for calling her a bitter cow. It's just rude and added oil to the fire. This is by far the most accurate response. Everyone here, except the mother of the 1-year-old, has behaved pretty terribly, including the family dynamics of having a golden boy and putting such emphasis on birth order. And not the a-hole. Your cousin is ridiculous. Just tell her you all love her baby to bits because of who she is, not the order in which she came, and that she's the only person who gives a damn about crap like that. Nobody else cares." Posted by user Am I the A-hole Rani Cloth Sar, titled Am I the a-hole for refusing to wear conservative clothes when my Indian roommate's parents visit? So I live with Rani, name changed, who is Indian. We live in a small apartment together and attend the same university. We met 2 years ago, and everything has been chill until tonight. I've never met her parents because they live a few states over and haven't been to our apartment to visit yet. They're coming over next weekend, and Rani asked me to wear conservative clothing. I usually lounge around in shorts and a tank top, normal stuff. But she asked me to wear full pants and shirts just while that they're there, and even offered to buy me new clothes if I don't have any. She usually dresses the same way I do, which isn't conservative at all, but said that if her parents ever find out that she even owns a pair of shorts, they might get her married off to someone, and she would have no choice but to comply with their wishes. She can't cut contact because she loves her family. She says that if they see her roommate isn't conservative enough, they might move her back home and she would have to quit going to school. I refused because why should I change myself in my own house? She says it's only for a few days, but come on, man, take them elsewhere. This is my home, right? She's being cold to me and keeps muttering that she expects me to be more understanding, but I don't see why she let them dictate her life. I ran away from my own home and cut contact. I turned out fine. A bit in debt, but alive, yeah? A different friend of mine, who knows Rani too, says I should just agree to what Rani wants and put up with it so Rani wouldn't have to go through anything. I don't know what to do. Am I the a-hole if I refuse? Well, yeah, I think you doing that intentionally, knowingly screwing over your friend is an absolutely terrible thing to do. She will literally get removed from your property by her parents because of your actions. You're seeing abuse and toxic circumstances right in front of your eyes. I'm assuming you escaped situations similar in your own life, and now you're choosing to make things worse for her? Shame on you for that. You could be helping her distance herself from abusive parents, yet choose not to. That makes you a terrible person. You're the a-hole. Now in the comments, HellyBear90 says, if it would cause her so much hassle that she would need to move out or get married off, why wouldn't you? It's only a few days and she even offered to buy you the clothes? I get what you're saying in principle, but to be honest, I think you're the a-hole. Literally, OP is so selfish. Imagine being callous enough to actively make life this difficult for someone else instead of wearing trousers for a day. I feel like every time I hear someone say, I went through X and I turned out fine, it takes about 3 minutes and they quickly make it obvious how not fine they are. OP has developed a sense of independence that now is showing up as extreme self-centeredness without the ability to be considerate of others' feelings, and to the degree that they can't even consider how this will affect them. If Rani gets pulled from school because her parents cut her funding, and it's not like student loans can just be randomly taken out in March, then OP has no roommate. A roommate situation that has been great for 2 years is worth a ton to a lot of people. If you told me I could have a chill roommate arrangement that works well for years, and the additional cost of that was for 3 days, I needed to wear sweatpants while lounging in communal areas, who wouldn't take that offer? Rani has a plan to get out from under a parent's thumb through education, and it seems like OP is spiteful that Rani can do that without taking the harder path that OP had to. You don't seem to understand her family pressure, likely because you ran away, but this seems like a simple favor. If she's even offering to buy you clothes, it's obviously very important to her. A real friend wouldn't even hesitate to do this. It sounds like you're just rebelling against this fairly basic ask because you don't understand or believe that family is important. I find it very normal to be more respectful when I meet a friend's parents, especially when I know they're traditional or first gen. Think of what you're asking and what she is asking. You suggested she just cut ties with her family because you don't want to put on pants for a few days? You're the a-hole. Yes, you're the a-hole. She's asking you to wear pants for a few days so she doesn't have to leave school to go into an arranged marriage. That's too much to ask of you? This is really what it boils down to. OP's roommate isn't going to face parents that are disapproving and are going to make a few comments. She's going to face a parent that will take her education away and completely alter her life course. Her photos will be stolen from her because OP is standing on a principle. Yes, in principle, it is very wrong what is happening, but knowing the consequences, it's also wrong to turn your back on someone in need, especially if it doesn't cost you anything except wearing long pants for a few days. Posted by user Keep My Dog, titled, "Am I the a-hole for not wanting to get rid of my dog for my pregnant sister?" Throwaway account, obviously. So my 15 male dad died not that long ago. It'll be 6 months next week. My mum moved us out of our house because she said it hurt her too much to be there, and now we're living in this new house for 2 months now, and I hate it. Last month, my 20-year-old sister told us she's pregnant, so now her and my mum are getting ready for a baby in the house. To be honest, I'm not really excited like them, but I thought, whatever. Until yesterday. My sister told me I have to get rid of my dog before the baby comes. I asked her why, and she said because dogs are bad for pregnant women and newborn babies because they carry germs and parasites. I told her that's not true. I always bathe my dog, he has all of his shots, and we take him to the vet regularly. He's also been around lots of babies before, and he's super friendly to them, so he can't be a danger to her baby. My sister got mad, so she got my mum involved. She told my mum I was being a brat and that I don't care that I'm poisoning her baby. I told my mum I didn't want to get rid of my dog. My dad bought him for me as a puppy on my 9th birthday. There's been lots of changes these months. Losing my dad, us moving, and now getting ready for a new baby. My dog is the last connection to my dad. My mum's not home much and neither is my sister, so I feel like all I have is my dog. I explained to my mum why I don't want to get rid of him. She said she understands he's important to me, but I need to stop thinking about myself and consider my baby niece or nephew. I said I don't even believe my dog is bad for my sister's pregnancy. She never liked him since my dad bought him, and I feel like she's using this to get him out of our house. My mum said she isn't going to force me to get rid of him, and she'll leave it up to me. My sister's been mad at me since, and keeps making comments about how she hopes me taking my sweet time deciding what to do won't damage her baby. They are both expecting me to do the right thing, but I don't know if I want to. Does that make me bad? Am I the a-hole because I want to keep my dog? P.S. My dog avoids my sister because she treats him bad if he's close, so it's not like he'll be all over her. Lol, it's not like this dog is a big bag of cyanide that you're buddy-buddy with, and somehow you're immune to this cyanide, but if it gets anywhere near the sister, she'll instantly evaporate or something. Doesn't sound like this dog is dangerous or poses a threat to her or the baby either. If anything, it'll be the sister doing something to the dog way before it would willingly do anything to her without just cause. The dog is a family member at this point, and it's also the last semblance of connection that OP has to their dad. Getting rid of it is akin to making you abandon your own kid because this sister doesn't like them. Tell her she can move out if she doesn't like it, or just keep the baby with the baby daddy if the dog's too much of a threat to her. Not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Can't Get Right 10 says, "Not the a-hole. Need to get rid of your sister. Where's the baby daddy?" And OP replies, "I don't know. She was dating a security guy for a couple months before they broke up, but she was also going out with some other guy that I never met." Not the a-hole. And your sister is 20. She should have her own living space for this baby. Your dog isn't inconveniencing anyone if you're the one that walks it and bathes it, but the baby will disturb everyone in that house and cry day and night. This is coming from someone with 2 children. I don't think your mum is thinking about how that's going to affect your life and schooling, and I really hope they don't expect you to be a live-in babysitter. Oh, you just know the sister is going to fob the baby off to OP. Neither the mum or sister are home often, so who will look after the baby? And who will be selfish if they don't? Not the a-hole, please do not get rid of the dog, your dad got you. Your sister is being selfish and dramatic. The dog can't harm her child. Make sure you demonstrate that you're a good dog owner, clean up after them, take them for walks, etc. Make sure they're cared for well, entertained, and microchipped in case they suddenly become lost due to your sister. You've gone through significant trauma, heartbreaking loss at a young age. Your dog is your family. Millions of people across the world have dogs and kids. In fact, most dog owners have family. Put simply, it's not an issue. Your sister is being uncaring and manipulative. Don't get rid of the dog based on her lies. Don't let them bully you. The right thing is to honor your dad's memory by giving that dog a great life with the person he bought the dog for. That's you. I hope you're okay. Stay strong, and feel free to DM if you need to vent. And OP replies, I've always done my best to prove myself as a good owner. That was my dad's condition if I wanted to have a dog of my own and learn to be responsible for him. He made sure I was the one doing the walks, cleaning up after him, giving baths, feeding him every day, etc. No one else does it. And yeah, he got out once and my dad got him chipped after that. And thanks, I appreciate that. My mum hasn't talked to me much, so it felt like I haven't been able to say anything to anyone. You can find a lot of data about dogs being actually beneficial to babies, as someone else pointed out. Forward those to your mother and say something along the lines of, Hi mum, this is just so you know you haven't raised me to be selfish. I'm not thinking of only myself, I'm simply pushing back on requests based on inaccurate information. The dog can't harm my baby niece simply by being around her. See articles. Plus, he's been friendly with babies before, and in any case, he won't be left unsupervised with her. Sister's claims that he's hurting the baby are either based in misinformation or malice. And now on to the update. I forgot a lot of people wanted an update on what happened after my post. Sorry it took me so long. I read lots of people's comments to this and I was really happy to know that I wasn't hurting my sister or her baby by having a dog around. Lots of you sent me some good information. I decided to show what some of you commented to my mum and sis as proof that my dog isn't bad since she was so worried. I also told my mum that I'm not going to get rid of my dog because he means too much to me and that would hurt him too. My mum agreed with me more after showing her the info and said my dog doesn't have to go anywhere. My sister seemed more mad after, not just because of the info, but that I told a bunch of strangers our business. She didn't see the post though. My sister still kept pushing to get rid of him because she doesn't want to be around him while she's living there. My mum and her ended up having a big fight over it. There was lots of yelling and arguing for days until finally my sister said she's leaving unless we get rid of him. She said it like a threat, I guess, because she thought that would make my mum make me give him away. My mum didn't want her to leave, but that's what she ended up doing because I wouldn't give up my dog. For months it's been like this. She moved in with one of her best friends, I think, but she doesn't want to talk to my mum at all. For a long time, my mum was even more sad, and that actually made me start to feel guilty again because it seemed like this was all my fault. Things weren't good for a while. My mum was talking to me less and felt like we were strangers living together instead of family. But she said it wasn't my fault what happened, so it's not that she was mad at me for my sister leaving. She was just sad about everything, and that made her not talk or be around me. Finally, after months, Mum and me are talking better again, and she's actually spending a little more time with me. It's still not the same anymore though. My sister still hasn't called us, and I don't know when she's due, but it should be really soon. Everything didn't happen the way I hoped it would, but I'm happy that I still have my dog around. He helped me deal with everything. Thank you everyone for showing me I made the right decision by keeping him. You guys made it easier to give them all this info about how wrong my sister was about dogs affecting pregnancy and showed me I wasn't doing anything bad for wanting to keep the last connection I have to my dad. He's still here by my side, and I'm grateful for all the support. Now in the comments, Cast Iron Kettle says, I'm so sorry you were going through all this. I lost my dad super suddenly, and it was the most difficult year of my life. My dog got me through too, so I'm really glad that your mum stood up for you. Word of advice? Tell your mum how much you appreciate her standing up for you and not letting your sister take away your dog. Tell her that you miss her and would like to plan some sort of weekly thing together. Make it an actual plan in time, like movie Mondays, rather than a general request to spend time together. Having defined times will help your mum and also take pressure off of her. And I think it would be really good for you to be able to connect with her. I know how lonely this time can be. Also, don't be afraid to take the lead in planning. Make it clear that you'd love to hear what things and times she'd like to do, but that she won't have to handle arrangements. Don't forget, your mum still has energy and love for you, and she proved with her actions here. Really, it largely sounds like she's caught in the fog of loss, and small things like routine can make a huge difference for that. Also, I understand why you might feel guilty, but you aren't selfish for not giving in to someone's unreasonable demands. Your sister chose to see this as your mum not caring about her needs. She built up getting rid of your dog into a necessity, and she wouldn't step back and assess the actual situation. Her actions forced this situation, not you. Perhaps you feel guilty because you care about your mum, but trust me, it would be better to put that energy into connecting. By Huntress says, I'm happy it worked out okay-ish, but I hope you know there is a very good high chance that your sister will come crawling back after the baby is born. With the way her attitude was, she's likely trying to hold out on the guilt trip, but she's 20, and is her man even in the picture? Newborns are hard. She's going to reach out to your mum when realization hits her in the face. She'll probably throw some guilt tripping and maybe use the baby as leverage. But hold strong because she's going to realize she needs family and support. Oh, I agree. She's going to fold like a cheap suit. I only have one child with the father in the picture, and that crap was hard. I remember being so tired I could see sounds. Like, literally, my eyesight was swimming and was like looking through a pool of water, and every time something made a noise, it was like someone threw a stone in the pool. And Duty Valuable says, I'm so happy you didn't give up the dog. As someone who's had 2 kids so far, and dogs, they're not a danger to pregnant women or babies if handled correctly. She just wanted an excuse to get rid of the dog, and she's throwing a tantrum because she didn't get her way. I believe that you will be hearing from your sister shortly for 3 reasons. Babies are a lot of work, being a new parent is exhausting, and babies are loud. She's staying with her friend, and unless her friend is on board to have a newborn screaming around the clock and not being able to sleep, your sister will be doing this on her own without any backup, and that is very hard. She will need your mother soon. A word of advice if your sister and nephew/niece do move back in, look online about ways to help your dog adjust to the new baby. Your dog will need to be kept away from the newborn until he or she knows it's not a toy, and you should be exposing your dog to the newborn scent. Just a heads up that your sister might use the baby as an excuse to try to get rid of the dog again, or say that the dog is a threat to the baby, or say that if you don't get rid of the dog, she and the baby will be homeless. Okay, and our next post is by user ThrowRA Manga La Sutra, titled, Am I the a-hole if I don't want to share my wedding necklace? Some details have been changed for privacy. Hi all, long-time lurker, first-time poster here. Some background first. I, 37 female, have been married to my husband H, 36 male, for nearly 2 years now. We live in Canada, he is Canadian, and I moved here 3 years ago. Prior to that, I was born and brought up in India. Neither of us is very religious or traditional, and I'm openly deist. Both our families are somewhat religious, but not very devout. They had a few reservations about us, but so far, it's all been great. For our wedding, we had small wedding ceremonies in both cultures and a party afterwards, and my husband's family quite enjoyed participating in all the pre-wedding functions for the Indian part. On to the problem. As part of the Indian wedding, my husband had to place a Mangal Sutra around my neck. A Mangal Sutra is a gold necklace with black beads, and in our culture, it's equivalent to a wedding ring but only for the women. I don't like them because they're sexist and because they're chunky, ugly, and don't go with anything. I told my mother not to get me this and not to include it in the ceremony because it's an expensive waste. I won't wear it, and it's like a white elephant. I can't give it away or sell it. I have to keep it. My mother, being the smart cookie that she is, worked with my cousin to have one with a modern design, custom made for me. It's stylish, minimalist, and goes with almost everything, and I love it. I still don't wear it all the time, but quite frequently. As a contrast, I wear my wedding ring all the time, because my husband wears one too, and because I like wearing rings. The problem I'm having is with H's sister, E. E and I get along quite well, and I'm quite keen on fostering a good relationship with my in-laws because all my family is back in India. E loved the design of my Mangal Sutra and wants to borrow it. Now, I'm not religious at all, but no one can shed the influence of their culture completely, and it's the same for me. For me, the Mangal Sutra is a symbol of my matrimony, and not something that can just be lent out, especially not to my husband's sister. I've offered to have something similar made for her, but she says she doesn't want us to go through the trouble or the expense of something she only wants to wear once or twice. Why I think I'm the a-hole is that I can see her point. I'm a logical person, and logically, I have no reason to refuse, and I can't just pick and choose the things I want to be logical about. But emotionally, for me, the necklace is like underwear. You may or may not wear it, but you don't share it. FTR, I'd have the same feelings about it if it were of the traditional design, and I didn't like it as much as I do. I've tried to explain this to her. It's not something we have fought about, and she always accepts a refusal graciously, but she doesn't stop asking. It's like she thinks after a reasonable time passes, it'll be okay for her to borrow it. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? I think it is an odd request, since I think of it being like asking to wear someone else's wedding ring out to a function once or twice. That's not something people normally do, and it's honestly fine to not be okay with that and deny her request. It's just a piece of jewelry to match this sister-in-law's outfit. Surely she can just go order something else or borrow someone else's stuff that isn't tied to their marriage in any way. She seems to be making this a bigger deal than it needs to be. You're well within your rights to keep that boundary maintained with her and repeat that you're not comfortable with her wearing it. I don't think that makes you an a-hole for doing so. Is it really a dick move to deny a friend wearing your jewelry, even if it's not a wedding ring or a Mangal Sutra? Like, if you're uncomfortable with that? Because that seems to be pushing the boundaries of like, hey man, I gotta be forced to do something or else I'm an a-hole. Social pressures are weird sometimes. I'm gonna go with not the a-hole. Now in the comments, SnowAdvice2768 says, fellow Indian here. Just ask your husband to get something made for her. Tell her next time she asks that her wearing it would mean that she has married her brother. It may sound harsh, but sometimes it's what you gotta do. And since you have politely declined, it doesn't make sense for her to keep asking. That's rude. And since this is so personal and cultural for us, even though I'm similar in beliefs regarding the Mangal Sutra, I would still be very, very offended on some level that my sister-in-law wants it and doesn't give up. Just ask your husband to get her a chain that's similar for Christmas. And OP replies, good point, I'll think about it. Also, loaning it could mean you won't get it back when it becomes a symbol of her matrimony. That situation happened on here with a woman who loaned her sister a dress that became the dress that she got married in, and she never got it back. She should have her own if this necklace means so much to you. And OP replies, Well, she doesn't want to borrow it for her wedding. And yes, getting her one for her own is the plan now. Ah. The way it was worded, I took it as borrowing for the same capacity that it served you. Oh, hell no. She don't need to borrow it to simply wear it? And OP replies, sorry about that. I'll try to choose my words better in the future. Wow. I thought she was asking to wear it for the wedding too. That she wants to borrow something so significant for random events makes it worse. I'm an atheist with no ties to a particular culture, but that doesn't mean I feel entitled to disrespect the cultures of others, which is what she's doing. If she likes the necklace so much, she can have one made herself. That seems to me the logical solution. Not the a-hole. It's yours, and it means something special to you and your culture, so why should you need to lend it to someone who's going to wear it once or twice? Especially since your mother had it made especially made for you. You wouldn't give out something so personal like your wedding ring or dress for someone to wear, so it's unfair that she keeps asking you to borrow it. It may be inappropriate for her to even wear considering she isn't Indian. I'm not sure. And OP replies, exactly. She wouldn't ask to borrow my wedding ring or wedding dress, but I think she feels that because I openly refuse to follow my religion, I don't or shouldn't attach any significance to the Mangal Sutra. I don't know. I never asked in detail. Many people in Canada are not Christian, and yet will defend to the death their Christmas holiday traditions. Considering the current season, this might be a way to make her understand that, while tied, religion and culture are not at all one and the same, and that you can reject one while maintaining the other. And OP replies, that's a good point. I'll try that. And Jinyuki91 says, not the a-hole. Emotional attachment, especially one that is also attached to tradition, is hard to pass over to logic/reason. It's alright to turn her down because it's rooted to what you feel. You might end up regretting it. I had an experience wherein my feng shui bracelet was repeatedly jokingly touched, even though I said it shouldn't be touched by others. I'm not a devout believer by any means, but at the same time I felt like they stained my bracelet, and I had to control not to vent at them because they didn't understand. Just retelling it makes me feel bad about it still. And OP replies, thank you for saying this. I was feeling very conflicted, and I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's logical for us as human beings with complex emotional needs to say no to things that make us uncomfortable. No other reason needed. Please don't ever try to logic yourself out of setting boundaries with pushy people. And OP replies, thanks for putting that so eloquently. I couldn't find the correct words to express my thoughts. It's nice to have my thinking both verbalized as well as endorsed. And now on to the update. So, my first post here a few days back received a huge response, and I'm deeply thankful to everyone who responded. I had to wait a few days to post an update, as per the rules, so here goes. A few hours after the post went up, I got a call from my other sister-in-law, C. She came across my post and guessed it was me because I gave away too many details, I guess, and just called me to ask straight out. And several details I didn't know came to light. 1. During the wedding planning stages, I had complained to E and C about not liking Mangal Sutras and not wanting one for myself, and that I didn't know how to explain that to my mum. They didn't understand that even though I didn't like them as a concept, if I had one, it would still be culturally important to me. 2. I was laughing when I made the wedding ring analogy. They thought I was joking. 3. All three of us have borrowed and lent items to one another before, so really, asking for something a second, third, or however many times had never been an issue. That, combined with what they knew about my personal beliefs, genuinely made them think that I would be okay with lending it out after an appropriate amount of time had passed, which is why E kept asking. C realized the problem after reading both the post and mine and everyone's comments. Another commenter mentioned to me privately in DMs that E actually probably really wanted one for her own, but was too polite to accept when I offered to have one made for her. This turned out to be true. C told me E really loved the design of the necklace, but was too shy to say yes when I offered to get her one. So we made a plan. It's too late to get her one for Christmas, but she has a landmark birthday coming up. We've reached out to the person who made mine and are getting one custom made for her. We'll change the design a bit to make it look like not a Mangalsutra and incorporate some elements that she likes and gift it to her for her birthday. Thank you so much to everyone who commented for your advice, kind words, and support. I'm happy to report a very happy ending. Now in the comments, Beautiful Mistake says, I love the fact that she was too shy to say yes when you offered to make one for her, but wasn't too shy to keep on asking you about yours, lol. I'm glad you guys worked it out. Happy holidays and Happy New Year. And OP replies, well, asking is a normal thing for us. We do that a lot. That aside, she's a sweetie, and as a fellow shy, awkward person, I've been guilty of similar behavior, so I can't really hold it against her. I'm glad C found your post, to be honest, as you were quite polite about your question, and now they understand what it truly means to you. It sounds like it'll be a lovely birthday present. Glad to read that things were resolved because, in spite of all the drama that makes this sub a guilty pleasure, I love it when things work out well for the OP. Best wishes to you, your husband, C, as I assume she's seen this post as well, and E, who hopefully hasn't. And OP replies, she hasn't. She's not on Reddit, and she's rather sweet and sensitive. Finding out about this, especially the previous post where everyone kept saying she was the a-hole, would have really hurt her. So I'm glad it didn't come to that. And Fennelly says, not gonna lie, as a jewelry enthusiast, I really want to see what this necklace looks like. And OP replies, I'm away from it right now and sharing a pic isn't possible at the moment. Basically, the chain is super thin and there are 2 beads spaced out on each side. The beads are a lot smaller than standard. The pendant is a slim horizontal bar set with alternating black stones and diamonds. And White Gull Skull says, somehow I feel this whole thing is OP's fault. You've downplayed the importance of the Mangalsutra to your in-laws, so I can pretty much understand why your sister-in-law would think it was okay to ask for it. I think it's about time you improve your communication skills. And OP replies, can't argue with that. Obviously, hubby ended up getting looped into C and Maya's conversation, and after reading the post, laughed his ass off, saying for someone who claimed to have a good relationship with E, I was super wary of just having a blunt conversation with her. Alright guys, I think that's where I'm going to end today's video. If you need a good laugh, please do check out my second channel, Markee 2, links down in the description below, or it's going to appear somewhere on the screen here at the end, little bubble with my face on it. As always, a big shout out to my Patreon and channel members. Your faces are surrounding me right now, and I love to have you guys with me, and down in the comment sections of each and every video, and just knowing that you're always there to support me. It's a humbling and lovely feeling. And rest assured, I do see you, and I do notice your support, and I thank you every day for being here and helping me along this journey. Not much else to say besides that, guys. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. I do hope that you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. I will see you in the next video, and thank you again. Bye.